Make sure the mic is on. There we go. All right. Spencer Rattler just threw a 100-yard touchdown. Oh, I see. He threw a pick six. Okay. Anyway, let me post this real quick. I am live. Oh, right. Twitter does a weird thing. Twitter stinks. I am leaving. Okay. Hey, Cody, Trigger, how's it going? I'll post the thumbnail while I'm at it. That is the wrong one. Hold on. Lock in, Alex. It's still the wrong one. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Cool. There we go. All right. Hello. Thank you all so much for joining. It's Saturday, August 22nd, 2026. I think it was just raining a bit ago here. I can't quite tell because sometimes there's clouds and then there's a blue sky, but in those clouds it's raining. That's just how the Ohio Valley works sometimes. So yeah. Hey, Paper Banjo, how's it going? Yeah, so, such as the Ohio Valley for you. Went to the Bengals preseason game last week with, not this past week, but the week before with some friends. It was muggy. It rained at one point, but we sat up high underneath like the roofing, so we didn't get hit by any of the rain. So like, man, you guys got the right tickets for this game. So it was just, I hadn't been to a Bengals game in a while, so it was just nice to go back to one. Let's see. Oh, I forgot about the modified race. Shoot. I went out and did some errands, and then I got home and watched the truck race. And the chase is set for that. Quite a bit of a hectic finish there between, was it Friesen, Ankrum, and Garcia getting that last spot. Ankrum ended up getting it. Good for him. Yeah, I saw Tyler Ankrum win his first truck race at Kentucky back in 2019. Because I remember I was staying in Victory Lane. I had credentials, and, I forgot who was leading, but, like, he ran out of gas, and suddenly I'm like, oh, Ankrum won. Holy crap. So, so he got to go home with the Crosley jukebox, because that's what they did at Kentucky back then. So, let's see what else. Went to a Reds game earlier this week. So didn't go well for them. It's just kind of been how the season's been for them. But it was against the Cardinals. So my dad's a Cardinal fan. It's always fun to go out and see. I have to at least, if I end up only doing one Reds game a year, I've done a couple now, but if I'm going to go to a Reds game, I definitely need to see them play the Cardinals. That's just a tradition at this point. So yeah. Speaking of which, the Bengals are playing now, aren't they? I'll try and follow along with that. But we are here streaming live. We'll do director's commentary part 2 for Sunday Night Lights 2002. We'll do that. We'll cover the Winston Cup section. Yeah. So, hello Brendan, hello Brian. No worries, I just got started myself. So, Frankie Muniz and Tony Breininger were pulled out of their rights and replaced by full-time drivers. Yes, I did. I did see that. So, kudos to them. Obviously, I know sometimes that's kind of a selfless act to do. So, obviously, it was nice of Frankie to do that too. Was it Luke Baldwin? I think it was, to step into it. Who was it that stepped into his truck? Was it? I don't remember. But, yeah. All those red flag 26 resumed. I'll talk about the modified race. Gotcha. Will you see a minor league game during the lockout next year? I mean, there's the Louisville Bats. There's the Dayton Dragons. There's the Florence Yalls right down the road from here. So, the Florence Jaws of the Frontier League. So those are fun games to go to. Luke Baldwin, okay. So I feel like I knew it was, but it's one of those cases where I'm like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and I second guess myself. So what can you do? So let's see, what other fun mumbo jumbo can I talk about for getting into the other fun stuff here? Still planning on what the next Racing Infinity will be. I'm happy to say that races are officially underway for SNL 2003. So we got some cars in the higher circuits still to paint, but we're making a lot of progress. So races are underway for that, and started that just recently. So yeah, we got quite a race-filled weekend, don't we? Truxton Cup, New Hampshire, yeah. IndyCar in DC, that had the IROC event there. Jeff Gordon won it, and then ARCA in Springfield, yeah. So quite the race-filled weekend we have, don't we? And in just a few weeks, how many weeks from now? About 3 weeks from now, I will head to St. Louis for the races at Gateway. So I'll be back at Gateway again. Jeff Gordon won the DC IROC event. Wonder Boy still has it at 55. Unk still got it, right? So, let's see. I did see a NASCAR YouTube short from 2023 from a 1999 Darlington race that there was a rumor that Front Row Joe was going to be in the 28 in 2000. Interesting. Off topic, more about Banjo-Kazooie got revealed. Oh, Banjo-Kazooie? Oh, nice. That's a classic right there. Of course, I know there was Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, and then there was the Nuts and Bolts game that JonTron infamously reacted to. So yeah. I think that's, in terms of updates, all I have is races are officially started for Sunday Night Lights 2003. Obviously, I started a little sooner last time. Maybe now that my work schedule's a little different now that I have my actual weekends off. Instead of being off like Sunday, Monday, or whatever, I'm now off Saturday, Sunday. But, maybe I'll start doing 3-hour streams more. But spend like the first hour just talking about stuff, and then get into the main event stuff at 8 around that time. I'll probably end up yapping and go over again, but yes, last stream, obviously, there was some stuff I talked about with you guys, talked about how I felt about things within the sport, and some things that I wanted to call out and talk about, and some issues that I had with like the culture and the mindset in the sport. And I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you for allowing me to do that. I thought we had a great conversation when we did that. So yeah, I appreciate that. JonTron, yeah, I watched a lot of his videos back several years ago. Of course, I remember when that stint when he was with Game Grumps way back in like 2013. But I would like to submit my Racing Infinity idea. Kart 2001 at Texas World. Well, that's an interesting thing, because obviously I haven't really covered it in Sunday Night Lights, but I guess that race doesn't get canceled because they run at Texas World instead. I mean, I assume they would, just because, when IndyCar runs at a place like Texas Motor Speedway or Las Vegas, I mean, they whip around there pretty quick. But I feel like with Texas World or Michigan, at least it's a lot more bigger and wide open compared to like a Las Vegas or Texas. So, which is interesting to think about. I think the past few races, the short track package is improving. Perfect but better. Yeah, Richmond, I thought it was a solid race. Logano ended up getting the win, which, gotta say, even year Joey. I think even year Joey's a real thing. So, with Texas World Riverside Kart in Louisiana, I didn't say that right. Would Texas World Riverside SoCal and Louisiana be with Kart? It's something I've thought about. I haven't really touched much on, but I would assume that, yeah, regardless if it's CART or IRL, they're definitely active on those schedules. I'm trying to think. Like, for instance, instead of CART running at Auto Club, obviously, which I'll talk about that whole debacle here in a bit, they're running at Riverside since, Riverside's there. Yeah. Let's see. Yasiro's pretty good. Yeah, can't complain. Joey Logano's definitely making things interesting. It seems like Penske has really locked in lately. The Fords have locked in, so um, Ty Gibbs looking strong. Ryan Blaney. Again, I actually had to look back and make, because lately I've had tweets pop up more than ever, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Logano, when let me go back all the way to like 2014. So 2014, I think he was in the championship four. 2016, championship four. 2018, champion. 2020, championship four. 2022, champion. 2024, champion. 2026, question mark. Now, of course, this is with the chase. But yeah, never know. Penske cars are so good on flat, short tracks. Yeah, I'm sure though they usually perform well at Gateway too. So I'm pretty confident they'll show up there too. Logano won there in 22. Blaney was going to win the 24 race, and then he ran out of gas and Cindric won. That was crazy. My dad called Cindric winning that race too, because he was like, "I'd like to see him win," and ta-da! So that was like, "Hey, how about Cindric? That's cool." You gotta feel for Blaney, but the fact that Logano's about to have the same number of championships as Jeff Gordon is terrifying. You know what? There's something about Logano where he just shows up when it matters most. Like he's going to go down, I think, as one of the most clutch drivers. Like him or hate him, right? But I think he's going to go down as one of the most clutch drivers in NASCAR history, just for that reason. Would IndyCar step up in safety so no one has bad wrecks? Probably. I would say the same thing for NASCAR, because obviously I am avoiding fatal crashes and stuff like that here. That was, yeah. So, let's see. Hey, Charlie, how am I doing? Yeah, I'm doing all right. Just enjoying the weekend. Like I said, just been trying to enjoy myself a bit. Got to see another Reds game. Got to go to the Bengals preseason game. Not this past week, but the week before. I think Fontana or something would still get built even if Riverside stayed around. CART will run our Super Speedway without Indy. Yeah, I can understand that. Before Watkins Glen, Riley Herbst had less laps led in 2022 than Chase Briscoe had race wins in 2020. Yeah, so. But anyway, let's see here. So yeah, last time I talked about stuff with how I think the culture in the sport needs to change, just like the mindset, and how I think there's just so much of the same things that get spewed out, a bunch of negativity, and I think because of that kind of toxicity, it's not helping push the sport forward. I feel like I've like I said, the reason why some of you may have noticed if you're on Twitter that I've gotten a little more vocal, and I guess now these tweets are starting to pop up. I guess that's what's making my tweets pop off nowadays, is just saying, and I'm saying stuff against the norm too, which I know people are like, how dare you, and all that stuff, but I feel like I just can't, like, and I talked about the lawsuit last time, right? And I talked about my problems with that, and stuff how like people were cheering for the sport's downfall. People were very much clowning on the sport. How just trying to think off the top of my head here. I admit, like an hour ago I laid down for 20 minutes just to kind of clear my mind, so I guess the gears are still cranking, but yeah, the lawsuit was that point where I said, okay, I need to say something. I can't just like sit here, twiddle my thumbs, and hope something happens, right? I gotta sit there and say something like, hey, why aren't we talking about this? And like, for instance, I know some people may have had issues with Steve Phelps, um, and I understand what he said about the whole stupid rednecks thing could be controversial. I can understand. I don't condone that kind of behavior at all. Um, but I think he knew where the problem was. And I think that, there's the stereotypes that have been plaguing the sport forever. That NASCAR is a southeastern. It's a southeastern-ish sport. It's for the redneck, blue collar, good old boys, and I think it's more than that, right? That's where the sport began. That's where the origins are, right? It's kind of like I think I said this last time. It's like that's your home. That's where you grew up. That's the neighborhood you grew up in. That's your parents' home. That's your inheritance. But now you got to go out there and see the world. Now you've grown up and blossomed. You got to go out there and see the world. So, like for instance, I still live here in Cincinnati. My dad, well, now he lives in San Antonio. He moved down there earlier this year because he got a new job. But and I'm still trying to go to different places, and I still want to go see different places and stuff like that. So, I take issue with a lot of the old fans that left and with the new fans that want to change into something it isn't. Yeah, and I think you can still have your traditions, but also have your innovations. Like, I'm sure there's a way for Wilkesboro to have a points race. I just don't want it to be at the expense of a Dover or a New Hampshire or, well, I could say Kentucky, but it's, you've heard me yell about that enough. But, you can do that. And you can also have your Chicago street races, your Mexico Cities, your LA Coliseums. Because I do think events like that are cool. And to me, I really wanted to see with the Chicago thing, I wanted to see Chicagoland and the street circuit exist on a schedule together. Because I was really curious to see if that could work. Because I think it would. Because Chicagoland can bring in your traditional fans. They're always going to travel, be there, all that stuff. And then the street race can bring in potential new fans, casual fans, right? And I took an issue to guys like, I'm going to call names out, Kevin Harvick. I talked a lot about Dirty Mo and the problems I had with them in the media. And how, I feel like, because they were saying stuff like, oh, NASCAR needs to stop chasing new fans and chasing fans that don't exist. And I was like, well, we have one of the oldest fan bases out there still. And, what's going to happen if we don't go after new fans, right? Think about the NFL, for instance. Obviously, the NFL made bank with Taylor Swift being with Travis Kelce, obviously, right? I'm not saying we need something like that, but you had a bunch of her fans start to watch the NFL. There was more viewership, brought in more money for the sport, and everything else. So there's that. You have the MLB. You have with the Dodgers. I know we all have problems with them, unless you're a Dodgers fan. With Ohtani being there, they attract the Japanese fan base, obviously, and of course it's on the West Coast too, so that benefits them a lot. And with them winning, that's as much as we hate to say it, the MLB gets a lot out of that, right? Or even with the NBA, the Knicks and Jalen Brunson winning the championship, it brought them a lot of good things, and it seems like NASCAR can't get any of that. So the other thing too is like, okay, please, okay, let me read some comments first before I get to this. Having no drivers' fatalities was the first rule you had alongside. Yep. I let the races play out. No fatalities. Like I said, I just let the race go. That's it. I don't think NASCAR has had a bad year, but it took having high wear tires and 750 horsepower to make short tracks watchable again. I take issue with a lot of the old fans left. Right, I saw that. I need to win the lottery to save Kentucky and make either a NASCAR return or make it a car store crown jewelries. If I won that kind of money, I would do anything to save that track, right? I mean, you and I think, are from the same neck of the woods, so, I would give Kentucky an infield road course. just to give it more stuff to do. Redo the infield, give it a new fan zone. I know the garages are shaping the W for DW, but we can do something else to kind of portray that. Maybe I would like to find something to name something after for Kyle Busch and Greg Biffle since they won there. That would be cool too. So I follow SNL since the 93-95 video. It's an awesome series. Are you going to allow people to download your 89-91 cars? That's something I probably need to look into. I know there's been a bunch of shenanigans and crazy stuff with Stu Nod, but yeah, I mean that's something I definitely need to look into. It's just sometimes I forget to do things and stuff like that. So please forgive me. I'll definitely look into that. Strike a balance between not pissing off longtime fans and bringing in new fans. Sure, and it's sometimes it's difficult because I know people. We hate change, right? We Biffle 2002. Don't forget, Biffle won the inaugural truck race there too in 2000, I believe. But yeah, because I know some, let me backtrack for a second. So let me at least finish reading these comments. Remember that when NASCAR tried to go to Dodger Stadium? Yeah, that was just a couple years ago. That would have been unique. Whether it's in the stadium or like a circuit around the stadium, that would have been really unique. I would have loved to have seen that. Let's see. Kentucky race would be interesting. Road course makes a great idea. Fun fact, there was the Bluegrass Motorsports Park. It was a road course that got built like up the road from Kentucky Speedway in like the late 2000s. And I did a video on it like during the pandemic. And it just never got finished. Like the initial layout was done. I think Rusty Wallace was there for the groundbreaking, but it just never, because obviously this was the late 2000s. What else happened during that time? The recession. The guys just ran out of money. Which is funny because one of the guys behind the project actually messaged me later on and said, "Yeah, I was part of that project." I was like, "Wow!" I was like, "Yeah, we lost money, but he was doing good now." So it was kind of cool to hear from that. But yeah, I would give Kentucky an infield road course, just like if Trans Am wanted to go there, and then redo the fan zone, the garages, and upgrade the facilities. And honestly, it'd be interesting now because the surface is a decade old now. When it got repaved, so I think it's actually perfect. I that was one of my tweets that blew up right before Indy because I wanted to check on the track because people were asking me, "Oh, did it get hit by a tornado?" Because it had a couple close calls like Dover just did. So I just drove over there. Track was fine. So they just gotta clean it up, really. It's still there. So I just, I gotta hope for 2028 now, right? So, I just hope it gets another chance again, and if it does, I will be there no matter what. So, I know it has its flaws, but I believe in saving our racetracks, and that means all of them. So, yes, that means Kentucky too. But anyway, what's the whole deal with Stu Not or someone not in the NR 2003 community? So I think they basically tried to make a new site, and there was just a lot of. I don't want to get into it because it doesn't involve me. There's just some discourse and stuff like that. So it seems like the old site's back up now and seems to be fine. Hopefully it stays that way. Fingers crossed. Which mods are you going to use? For Cup and Busch, we are going to use the SNG, the Splash and Go 03 mod. So that's a mod we can use for a while. So have you thought about putting the results and standings on Google Sheets just like the rosters? Probably something I could look into. I need to. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I at least definitely give you guys like. I would need to figure out how to do that, but I know I at least try to give you guys like all the files for all that so you can look through the results. But maybe it's something I could potentially look into here down the road. Off topic, if the MLB goes full blown strike, Reds are awful, and a change on the larger stage will be the only way to gap between Cincinnati and LA. Yeah, and I mean that's why a lot of owners of the MLB want a salary cap. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm worried. So, but yeah. What if the bluegrass track be in SNL at some point? Nobody's made it in NR. Somebody made it in Assetto Corsa though. Like what it would have looked like if they had finished it. So yeah. Okay. So anyway, I know I kind of got off topic. I was talking about like the difference between tradition and innovation, talking about the culture of the sport. Um, so yeah, and I talk about how you know the NFL and the NBA and the MLB were able to bring in these new kinds of fans, and I think NASCAR in a sense has kind of done that too with the Chicago Street Race, with the um, Bluegrass track. Look up Bluegrass Motorsports Park. It was a road course built up the road from Kentucky Speedway. The remains of it are still there, but obviously it hasn't been touched in many years. But it just was a track that never got completed. So, which would have been cool to see if it had gotten done. But maybe we would have had some IMSA races there. Now, of course, there is National Corvette Museum Motorsports Park that has something like that too. Which 2002 car set was better? I liked them both. Thought they were both great. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. So, like, I would have loved to have seen the Chicagoland and Chicago Street Circuit both on the schedule together. I don't know what the status is about Coronado. I hope it happens. Fingers crossed there, just to have a SoCal date. I can hope. I'll talk about Auto Club here shortly, but there were some issues I took because it's like I made a tweet saying how. Let's see, how do I want to start this? So the first tweet I want to talk about is a tweet where Dale Earnhardt Jr. responded to me. Some of you may have seen it. If you haven't, I'll explain. So they announced that Wilkesboro was going to do the All-Star race again, and people weren't thrilled, obviously, because they just got a points race, but obviously I think there was a promise for Dover to get the points race back. Yes, I agree. Coronado was absolutely amazing. And people suddenly were going like, oh, we should just get rid of the All-Star race and just let Wilkesboro be a 37-point state, which I never had a problem with the All-Star race. I think we should have an All-Star race. It's something we have that I don't think many other motorsports has, which, for a sport that's built off of rebellion and wanting to be different and do something different, just something to point out there. Which, by the way, have any of you guys seen the NASCAR Americana documentaries, parts 1 and 2? I think the third part's going to air after the race tomorrow. Really, really good. Really well done. If there's a rewatch or anything, I highly recommend you check it out. It's really well done. Especially part 2. When they talk about the family aspect. I definitely want to talk about that too. So, I made a tweet and just said, like, because again, I just said, okay, I want to call this out. And I said, I don't like that suddenly we're saying the All-Star race needs to go because it's Wilkesboro. And I said, because I felt like you all are saying this because it's affecting Wilkesboro, but if this was like Kansas or Iowa, it wouldn't be the same way. Because again, there's a group of people who want the sport to just stay as a southeastern-ish sport. And, I didn't even say anything to Junior himself or retweet anything or respond, but, he he responded to me of all people and said it needs a points race, which that's all he said, which I kind of laughed when I saw it. I just went, well, I guess I finally made it. I finally made it as a content creator. I got Junior coming after me. So, and don't get me wrong. I grew up a Junior fan. I stuck with him through thick and thin. The 4-year winless drought and all that. But there's been some things he said in recent years that I just don't agree with. And I just wish he had a different approach on certain things. And, again, I think we can make Wilkesboro exist alongside races like Mexico City and Chicago Street Circuit. And we kind of did that, right? So I think you can, and that's something I'm trying to do with the Sunday Night Lights schedule is figure out a way to where we keep like the Wilkesboros, the Rockinghams, but we can also still go to different markets and do different things. Um, but it being the All-Star race is better than rotting away. Sure, it should host racing of some kind. I mean, look, when you look at it, it's great that it's a great story that this track got revived. I mean, I don't think 6 years ago, none of us thought it was going to come back. As much of a Junior fan I am, there's some old grumpy takes he gives that frustrates me. Yeah, and again, that's kind of the problem I have with Dirty Mo is I feel like, they're doing the opposite, I think, of what Dale Sr. would have wanted. Because I think, yeah, would Dale Sr. want Wilkesboro to come back? 100% he would have. But he also, I think, would have embraced the Mexico City races, the LA Coliseums, because he wanted to grow the sport. So yeah, and I understand if some of y'all don't like what I'm saying here. I understand 100%. I understand. So I appreciate that we can have these conversations civilly because that's all I want. Oh yeah, the truck series at Bowman Gray. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. I'm fine with the lower series being there. I think that works. I'm assuming they'll probably do something like they did with Eldora, where they do heats and stuff. So I hope there's a bunch of cool one-offs for that race. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes because that race is going to be insane. Mike Davis has made fair share crappy takes. Freddie Kraft too. Yeah, right. So I think I hate to say this, but some of the stuff that Dirty Mo is saying and doing, I do think does hurt the sport a bit. And I think that there's something with our media that just needs to change. I'm not saying that we shouldn't criticize things, right? There's things worth debating, there's things worth discussing and criticizing, for sure. But I feel like it gets a little too exhausting. Oh yeah, Trucks is going back to Mosport. I hope I said that right. Canadian Tire. Trucks need more non-cup tracks. Well, yeah, I mean, I love that Trucks goes to St. Pete and Lime Rock, and they did Mid Ohio in the past. I wish they go back to Mid Ohio, but that's just me wanting another race near me. I'm eating my own words here. But yeah, there's just been some issues that I've noticed, and when Junior responded to me on that, it kind of indicated to me, because I didn't see him be this way about Irwindale, at least I don't remember, or Pikes Peak, or Rockford, or even Auto Club. And I'll talk about the Chicago thing in a second, or actually I'll talk about that now, because if I remember correctly, with the whole Chicago thing, Dale Earnhardt Jr., he basically tried to campaign to fans to say, get rid of the street race, we don't need it, and he's been more of a defender for Chicagoland, but I am wondering, are you defending Chicagoland because you think we should race there, or because you just don't want the street circuit, right? So yeah. I have a stalker in comment sections that literally looks for old NASCAR clips to talk badly about it. No, jeez. Hey, look, I'm nostalgic myself. The part of NASCAR, if you want, like the what I want back is the popularity the sport had in the mid 2000s, 20 years ago, essentially. That's what I want to see come back. I want to see 250,000 people pack the Brickyard. And yeah, Junior did win at Chicagoland in 2005. One thing I worry about with Chicagoland in the future is it's going to have to probably be repaved in the coming years. And I know that's a word that people don't like to hear. Because I know Iowa's getting repaved now, so I'm hoping that, fingers crossed, it goes well. Racing Infinity video needs to be Cup Series going to Montreal. Yeah, it's something we could potentially look into. But yeah, I'm glad the Truck Series is going back to Canadian Tire. Like, yay, that's awesome. Especially for my friend Ferris. Very happy for him, obviously. So, but yeah, some of the points. Let's see here. So yeah, I talked about Chicagoland, talked about the Wilkesboro thing. And then I made a tweet when, they talked about how money was an issue with the Chicago street race, which, okay, fair. Politics is politics. Money is money. This is the same city that just lost the Chicago Bears to Hammond, Indiana. It's tough. And I hope that maybe there's another city that comes in. Maybe like Denver or Minneapolis or Seattle or, being biased here, Cincy or Louisville, somebody, right? Epic Memer, how's it going? Imagine Trucks at the Madhouse, man. I'm putting my ass for being there. From what I heard, Montreal nearly got a cup day for 2011, but Sparta, Kentucky said otherwise. Interesting. Well, I know that was because SMI bought Kentucky, and I think Burton definitely saw something in it, and obviously replaced one of the Atlanta dates for it. Am I super late? Nah, we're just discussing stuff right now. Around 8 o'clock or whenever I'm done yapping, we'll react to the second part of the director's commentary with the Winston Cup section. So I'm just kind of going off of what I was discussing last time out with some issues I see in the sport. And I'm doing the unthinkable by kind of calling Junior out a little bit. So, but just because there's been some things I've disagreed with him in recent memory. So, he made the comment that, like, race fans should be campaigning against the street circuit, and how I don't think that's fundamentally not good. I don't think that's fundamentally good for him to do. And, it seems like that's what's kind of holding us back. And I even say, like, I even said, I worry that the sport's getting held back, and saying, like, suddenly we're doing these new events, and it's just like, it's like that one meme with the keyboard that says, fuck, go back, and it hits it. So it's kind of like that. And even now, I kind of worry for, like, the gateways and the Iowas and stuff like that. Even though it seems like NASCAR, I think, is all in with Gateway in Iowa, and SMI with COTA, which is great. And NASCAR goes to Montreal instead of Kentucky. Marcos Ambrose probably wins. Yeah, I remember, speaking of which, I remember I went to the 06 truck race at Kentucky, and Marcos Ambrose was on the pole. As a matter of fact, the wall up in my bedroom here, I can look behind me, I have a poster that's, I think I got it at Atlanta in 06, but it's a Ford Racing poster. And it says 2000, it's one side of it has the Cup Series, but the side I'm showing is the Busch Series and the Truck Series. And one of the trucks showed was Marcos Ambrose's truck that he scored the pole at Kentucky with. So, small world. So, yeah, it's kind of, can't believe that's 20 years now, man. Good Lord. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the Busch lineup now. I'm just looking back behind me. Todd Cleaver, remember him? Mark Martin, John Andretti, rest in peace. Greg Biffle, rest in peace. Matt Kenseth, Kenny Wallace when he drove the AutoZone car. Ashton Lewis Jr. with T. Renzi. Yeah. Oh, man. David Green in the Kleenex car for, was it Bruco? Yeah. Reagan Smith when he was in the 35 McDonald's Ford. John Wood. Danny O'Quinn. Remember Danny O'Quinn? Stacy Compton. Carl Edwards, Ken Schrader, and then the 90 City Financial car. Elliott Sadler, Matt McCall, and 2007 Kentucky winner Stephen Light. Oh, man. It's kind of funny. It's kind of cool looking back at stuff like that, man. Like, oh, I remember that name. So, I would again like to submit an idea for the IndyCar Grand Prix of Cincinnati, sponsored by Skyline Chili. I would love that. 100% would. Let's see. 2023 street race was rain shortened by rain. Yeah, and again, that's not NASCAR's fault. It's just bad luck. What can you do? But it gave us a really cool moment with SVG, right? That was cool. And NASCAR has showed me that they could have been doing this 20 years ago. And it's like when people tell me, like, if somebody commented to me, it was like, if you want street racing, go watch IndyCar, go watch sports cars, go play Gran Turismo, which I'm like, That's funny because the first racing game I played was Gran Turismo 3. But um, I also remember Nelson Piquet Jr. Absolutely, I remember Nelson Piquet Jr. Kyle Krisiloff. Yes, I do remember Kyle Krisiloff. Some of these names you'll be seeing in SNL not too long from now. Drinking a Sprite. Yum. Want a Sprite cranberry? Anyway. The late 2000s PS2 games should have had Kentucky National Gateway. Yeah, that would have been cool. That was something I dreamed of. And then NASCAR the Game 2011 came out. I just remember being so excited. I was like, my home track's in a video game now. This is so cool, you know. And I did so many races at Kentucky because I was just so excited for that, right? And it was getting a cup date. And 13, 14-year-old me was so happy. Oh, if only we didn't have the traffic jam that we had. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Street races are generally really boring in IndyCar, and most in F1 fans hate them. NASCAR is just more interesting in general. Yeah, I feel like NASCAR puts on even the Truck Series put on some pretty good races, you know? It's interesting to think about that. Because, like, I've watched these races, and I'm like, oh, yeah, NASCAR could have been doing this. You know, they could put on some good races. Like I said, I went to the Chicago Street Race in 2025, and I had fun. Like, you know, it was definitely something parking in a parking garage and walking across the street, and I'm sitting there in Grant Park watching a NASCAR race. It just felt so surreal. I was like, I'm watching a NASCAR race in the middle of downtown Chicago. This is something. This is different. This is cool. You know, this is just something different. So I had a blast. I remember Kyle Busch drove that Slurpee car. That I really liked that paint scheme that he drove. I remember he was running solidly, and then he spun late in the going. I was like, But IndyCar Series 2003 at Kentucky. Oh, I forgot about that. That's right. Totally forgot about that. Let's see. So some things I want to talk about still. I want to point out too that, like, you know, how we see this older guard always having issues with the younger drivers. Something that even, you know, I think Dale Sr. embraced, and guys like Stewart and Harvick were controversial in the garage at one point, because it wasn't that long ago we had guys like Ricky Rudd and Sterling Marlin complaining about Kevin Harvick and Greg Biffle and Tony Stewart and those guys, you know. And sure, Dale may have had some things to say about Jeff early in his career, right? But one thing I want to point out is, you know, while those guys were controversial in the garage at one time, they changed over time. And while we have guys like Carson Hocevar, who has built a fan base by basically being a different kind of guy in the sport, but yet we're being told by guys like Harvick that they don't want to see him win and stuff, or at least it feels like that way. And I want to emphasize something that while Dale Jr. was never seen as an aggressive or controversial driver like his father per se, we talk about Carson Hocevar and how he has a fan base that hasn't been seen since Junior. But yet, it seems like the media actively roots against it, especially since, honestly, Hocevar might be the only driver that Junior said he loves, but then he didn't have the media all start loving him after it. Hocevar brought a lot of excitement back. Yes, NASCAR needs Carson Hocevar more than Carson Hocevar needs NASCAR. And him winning would be big. Let's see. NASCAR had its major expansion in the 90s, which it would have happened in 2020. Would have been for street races, but the real estate in the 90s allowed them to build massive facilities. Right, and it was... Those tracks especially were built during a more prominent time for, like, you know, suburban areas and people traveling out to the place instead of being in the city. And that's kind of changed over time. Someone mentioned the Yu-Gi-Oh paint scheme. I'm not going to say anything on that quite just yet. I don't want to spoil anything. Let's see. Let's see. You talking of Rowdy reminded me of Alley Productions 2026 Haters Guide to NASCAR. When he got to KB at the end of that segment, he said, "Sorry, Rowdy Nation, enjoyed the ride while it lasts." Well, and then again, you don't expect to have what happened, right? Um, but yeah, I just feel like, especially like I talked about Hyman Hocevar, right? And like both of them kind of behave similarly in a way. But while Hein gets praised for it and he gets called humble, mature, he's a one of a kind driver, Hocevar does the same things. But it's like, oh, he needs to mature, he needs to grow up, he needs to be better and stuff like this. I'm like, now wait a minute. Hocevar has gotten so much better. Like, if Hocevar was in a JGR car, he probably has a bunch of wins by now. He's that good. You know, I still like that, when Heim was blocking the crap out of Hocevar at Indy and Hocevar flipped him off. I saw it during a caution on Twitter. I was like, like, see, stuff like that's good, But but then people even said about that. I'm like, they were like, oh, Hocevar, that's dangerous to be flipping him off at that speed. I'm like, dude, Dale Sr. did that stuff all the time. Even in the race that he sadly lost his life in, he was flipping off Kurt Busch when they made contact. So, Hocevar was just telling him how he felt. He was just like, he's like, get out of my damn way, So, I don't blame Hocevar for feeling that way. But yeah. Let me see. Let me catch up on these comments. Which driver got the most robbed in all of SNL? Oh, man. That's a tough question because, I think that's worth debating. Obviously Dale Jarrett was kind of a big letdown. I know Jeff Gordon hasn't won as much. He's still been good, though. Hocevar is the reason why I went to Chili's back in January for my birthday and had a triple dipper. Nice. I gotta get back to a Chili's, man. I gotta get back to one. Let's see. Richard Petty, who has been around since the beginning, gave a seal of approval to Hocevar. Yeah. Like I said, I was at the track when he won the pole. I mean, the crowd was loud. Hocevar, this is the kind of fan base and driver that we've been waiting for since Junior retired, I feel like. But yeah. I was fist pumping at the TV when I saw Hocevar give I'm the bird. And again, it's stuff like that kind of says, hell yeah, What makes the sport fun? Because I remember I retweeted it, but hang it in the Louvre. Davey Allison was a shocker, 91 champ, then fell off. Yeah, Davey's just been weird in this timeline. Oh yeah, Zilch to the 48. Yeah, that's right. That's another thing I missed. That race I think was passing the torch. When Dale died, his Intimidator persona passed to Kurt Busch. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about that, right? Especially him and Kyle Busch, his brother. You can't compare anyone to Dale, but if there was somebody who was close enough to Dale, it was Kyle Busch. And honestly, I see that photo of him burning out with Hocevar earlier this year, and I almost feel like the torch was passed to Hocevar and we didn't know. Hocevar is debatably way more popular than Chase Elliott. His diecast sold out immediately. I will say the Spire merch hauler was the longest line when I went to Indy. I was like, I know why they're in line for Hocevar stuff. So honestly, Hocevar might get his own merch hauler here next year. Who knows? And I'm curious to see if maybe he beats Chase Elliott as the most popular driver. So what happens if that happens, right? Because it's always been an Elliott or Earnhardt or for the longest time. So you can't think of NASCAR the past 20 years and not think of KFB. I agree. Yeah. For as long as I've watched NASCAR, I've always seen Kyle Busch on my TV. I've always seen him race. All the races I've seen him win, it pretty much feels like 2001 all over again, and it still just doesn't feel real. Which I want to segue into the NASCAR Americana documentary real quick, especially that part two talked about like the family aspect of the sport. And yes, NASCAR is a family sport, and obviously they were probably making this before Kyle Busch passed away, but the fact that they kind of tied this all into how each family that was discussed, the Pettys, the Earnhardts, and the Bushes, obviously they all had some kind of tragedy, and they all have been able to bounce back stronger. And you know, Kyle Petty said it well with Dale when Dale died. He said it wasn't just a southeastern tragedy; it was a national tragedy. And I'll say the same thing with Kyle Busch. It was a national tragedy, and this wasn't even him dying in a wreck. This was just an unexpected illness that I think, from what I heard, was just a 1 in a million thing. It just happened so fast, and such is life. Um, you know, and how we're able to just, no matter what can bring us down, no matter the tragedy that comes in our sport, and NASCAR has had fair shares of them. I would almost say sometimes that NASCAR has been very unlucky. When you think about Tim Richmond, Alan Kowicki, Davey Allison, Adam Petty, Dale Earnhardt, Neil Bonnet, Kyle Busch, and far in between. We lost a lot of guys that I think had a lot more to give to the sport. And in Sunday Night Lights, they're going to be able to fulfill that. And, because I think Kyle certainly had a lot more to give. Dale had a lot more to give. I think Alan Kowicki had a lot more to give. Tim Richmond, even Greg Biffle, they all had something more to give. And, again, sometimes life happens. Did you see, or let me see. I was sick with a cold when Kyle Busch died. I'm convinced that aggravated the cold more. Same with personally, I don't mind Chase, but his personality is kind of blank, and I think he didn't have the last name. People wouldn't care. Yeah, I see what you mean by that. But yeah, going back on the NASCAR Americana thing, especially because that kind of turned into a tribute to Kyle Busch. NASCAR is a family sport. And to me, it doesn't matter if you're from the Southeast or if you're from the West Coast, it caters to the family. And I think personally, I know people have had problems with the France family, and I know they're not perfect, but we need the France family around. And the reason why I say that is because I fear that if they were to sell off the sport, and it seems like they're not going to, but if they sold off the sport completely and walked away forever, I don't think NASCAR is going to be a family sport anymore. I sorry to make this comparison, but it's kind of like when WWE sold to TKO. It's just been soulless ever since. I don't want NASCAR to do that, because I think for a sport that was built off of rebellion, for a sport that was created to be different, the fact that we were doing oval racing, dirt racing, racing on the beach compared to running on all the fancy road courses that were already out there, the fact that we evolved into something bigger, the fact that people like Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt were able to take something that their fathers did and make it into something bigger, the fact that this sport is not afraid to try new things, and even I will argue, having the chase, not many motorsports have something like that, or an all-star race, the fact that the sport can be its own thing is what makes it cool. And NASCAR is a sport that I think anybody and everyone can enjoy. I've heard, I've been to Daytona. I've bumped into people from Sweden, from Brazil. I've heard fans from Ethiopia even, that's cool. And it should be like that, So while we are, obviously, we can celebrate our heritage, celebrate our history, celebrate where we came from, as we should, because we should never forget our roots. It is also important to take what we have before and make it bigger for something that everyone would have enjoyed. I feel like Kyle wanted to drive for Spire in 2028. You know what? The more I think about it, I think Kyle's plan was to help run RCR with the Dillons. I I just feel like that's something Kyle wanted to do. And I think that's why he went to RCR. So, that's my opinion. I don't know, but that's just what I think could have happened. And yeah, that's what kind of is a kind of a gut punch is Kyle never got to win the 500. You know what would be fitting? We get to like 2006, and in like one of Kyle's first 500s in SNL, he wins. That would just seem fitting, We got robbed of the end of both Bush Bros careers. Yeah, I agree. We were. Breaking news minutes ago. NASCAR announced trucks at Bowman Gray for August 20th, 2027. Okay. Is that what the news is? Okay. Yeah, I'm that's going to be interesting that's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. Trucks at the Madhouse. We'll see how it goes. I'm intrigued to see it. So, let me. I know I need to get into the commentary and the thing, the thing with the place. But yeah, at the end of the day, the reason why I'm talking about all this is just there's a contrast between what Junior says and how, or his folks at Dirty Most say about how we don't need certain fans versus what his own father did of not only embracing the Southern roots, but knowing how to appeal to fans everywhere, right? Because you can do both. You 100% can. You can embrace the Southern roots, but appeal to the fans everywhere. And I think you turn NASCAR into something really beautiful if that happens. Will the NASCAR IMAX experience be mentioned? Yeah, it probably still happens in SNL. And I remember seeing the IMAX, I think in early 2005 at the Louisville Science Center. Yes, because I remember I got like a pennant banner of Richard Petty. And there was a show car of Travis Quaffle's 77 Jasper Dodge in front of the building. I remember now. Yes, I remember seeing the NASCAR IMAX. It was at the Louisville Science Center. God, I can't believe I remember that. That was 21 years ago. Oh, man. But anyway, seriously, again, thank you guys. And again, this isn't relevant to the younger driver debate I was talking about. And on the topic of Bowman retiring, Zilch the 48. Obviously, if you're Chevy, you can't pass that up, right? I understand and respect why Zilch. I mean, if you're offered to drive for Hendrick, man, you're not going to pass that up. No way. And Hendrick did call Justin Marks and talk to him about it and everything else. So clearly there was some respect in all this. And, does Trackhouse need to lock the F in? Yes, they do. Because, this is a team that I think should be part of the future. A team that, made a lot of noise and disrupted the sport in a good way when they came in. That they were not afraid to think outside the box. The fact that they had Pitbull as a co-owner, the fact that they brought in Project 91 and SVG and scouted talent like Connor Zilic, brought in Wendy's and Red Bull as sponsors. Mark my words, Trackhouse is going to switch to Dodge. You know what? I could see it. I really think Trackhouse should. Because if Dodge goes to Cup next year with Kaulig, it's probably going to be like Toyota 07 all over again. And then, Trackhouse would honestly be a great candidate, So, in terms of who I'd like to see in the 88 car in 2028, I want to put in my endorsement for Raja Karuth. I think Raja would be a great fit for that team. I think, plus, if Red Bull's interested in him, because I don't know what's going to happen there. Is Red Bull still going to sponsor Zilic, even with Ally being there? I don't know. Travis Quaff almost won the 2005 Vegas Spring Race, and that's 77. Oh, yeah. And, again, saying that we don't need certain fans. Um, I want to. I wish Legacy could, but they're running good with Toyota. Yeah, and I think Jimmy's got a really good relationship with Toyota and all that, so they're gonna get better though. Legacy's gonna get better. So I mentioned Zilch the 48. Going back to the whole, when I talk about Dirty Mo and those folks and how they kind of hold the sport back, the another thing I want to bring up with Junior is when Bowman won the Chicago race in 2024, which I would have thought Junior would have been like, Bowman drove his ass off. He wheeled it there at the end. It was a big marquee win that Bowman had. And I remember a couple days after, the whole thing, there was that whole thing where Bowman undid his seatbelts and got hit by Bubba on the cooldown lap because there was some beef or whatever. And I remember Junior just going off, calling Bowman an idiot and a dumbass and saying something like, if you're doing that, you're going to get hurt. You deserve it. Something like that. Everybody's done the same thing. It's just that Bowman got hit by Bubba. And I'm like, why are you going on his ass for this? This is the guy you chose to replace you. Well, that actually made me kind of mad. Because I'm like, come on, man. Bowman doesn't deserve that. I was so ecstatic when he won that race. I was like, oh, hell yeah. How about that? So, he wheeled it, and I didn't like what Junior said there. I didn't at all. I was like, no. Because Bowman's not the first to do that, and he's not the last. He doesn't expect Bubba to come up and hit him. What if you would have said if Bubba drove up and hit him hard enough to where Bowman got hurt? Then what? And I like Bubba. Don't misunderstand. I like Bubba. Just saying. For instance, if hypothetically. The one thing I'll say about the fan debate is that, in my opinion, we don't need old heads who constantly complain and say it was better back in my day. Right, and I think that's a problem. Dirty Mo's full of that, unfortunately. It's a good thing I'm probably talking about this on YouTube, because if I said this on Twitter, I'd probably be getting death threats. So, I appreciate you guys hearing me out, seriously. One last thing I want to talk about before I get to this is the Auto Club thing. So, Bob Pockrass he cleared something up and said, it is my understanding, because there's this whole thing about how supposedly NASCAR sold off the rest of the land. Pockrass said, it is my understanding that NASCAR still has the parcel of land at Auto Club that it has had since it sold the majority of the property. The documents from May appear to be, from what I can tell, about an easement. And basically, NASCAR confirmed that it is a cancellation of an easement. So, I guess basically, this is NASCAR ending an agreement for the use of the land that they still owned, but not the rights to the land itself. So technically, they still have it. So nothing really changed. It's just that I think this was them, clearing the rights to the land that they still own, or something like that. Probably doesn't mean anything for the track, probably, but for whatever agreement they had, they probably scrapped what was left of it. But I think we deserve the Fell For It Again award. Let me read these comments real quick. Those fans drive me up the wall. They'll complain constantly yet somehow. Yeah, and I was getting tired of... I was probably getting... Yeah, I was just getting tired of... people talking... Because anymore, even during Indy, I was like, man, we're just finding something to complain about, Just to let you know, the State Fair is going on in my city right now, and I'm going to it right now, so I don't say anything in the chat. Oh, yeah, go have fun. Yeah, that's awesome. It's always a good time to go to the State Fair. Yeah, go have fun, man. Hope you enjoy yourself. Thank you for stopping by. Seriously, thank you. I appreciate it. So, yeah. 2005, the peak we had, longtime fans hating on the current thing. It's a vicious cycle. Yeah. I know there will always be people nostalgia baiting and saying that it was all better when newsflash it wasn't. Well, I mean, think about the 90s, right? We still had concrete walls. We didn't have the Hans device being mandatory. We didn't have safer barriers yet and all the safety stuff we have now. I couldn't begin to imagine what that was like, you know, seeing all those nasty crashes and drivers getting hurt and then, going through what happened with Dale. Even though I was around, I was only like 3, 4 years old. But, I don't know. We need to celebrate our sport more than try to tear it down. But yeah, that whole auto club thing was weird, but it just seems to me that like nothing really changed, I guess, and that it's still there. So I don't know. Nostalgia is one thing, living in the past is the other. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. You know, I say nostalgia is a hell of a drug, right? Um, and people who still like, 'cause a lot of people are nostalgic for the Gen 4. And I will say that if NASCAR had kept the Gen 4 the way it was from 2003 to now, we would have lost lives. Because I'm like, well, they could have added this to the Gen 4. I'm like, yeah, but the innovation would have plateaued. And the moment you stop innovating and you stop investing into the future, everything falls apart. You have to, as a sport, we always innovate and keep going. NASCAR and IndyCar and motorsports in general innovates and changes more than any other major sports out there, I would argue. And this whole thing with the auto club thing and how easy it is for the internet to take something out of proportion, and while that can and does happen in every sport from time to time, because it does, NASCAR seems to be where they have the most power because of, I just feel like the digital media space is rather informal at times, because I feel like a lot of the licensed journalists are just, there's a good chunk of them who are just on Twitter constantly saying stuff, and the reason why I stopped doing, because originally I was doing commentary NASCAR videos and talking about news and stuff like that. I stopped doing that because I felt like, and I do this stuff now because I feel like some of them just say the same thing. So I just wanted to stand out and do something different that will help celebrate and embrace the sport more than trying to tear it down to the ground. So that's kind of the problem that I had. So, yeah. Just some things I wanted to talk about, these are great discussions to have. I seriously thank you guys for hearing me out, honestly. All right, it's 8:07, so let me make sure I have this bad boy up. We could still talk and stuff like that. I'll probably adjust the volume a little bit. I want to make sure it's not too loud, not too quiet. Sometimes it's a little tricky. Let's see. Let's do that. Let's do this and that. Okay. But yeah, I mean, look, nothing's ever going to be perfect. And I know that people talk about how bad the next gen car is or whatever else. I'm fine with the next gen. Again, it just showcases more innovation that the sport can do. Or I don't even really have a problem with the electric prototype because it's just a concept, Maybe we get like a separate EV series at some point, but if anything drastic is going to change, it's not going to happen for another 10 years. So, yeah. Again, we should still celebrate the sport's history, but we should also be able to, while we can embrace the Southern roots, embrace fans everywhere. Whether you live in the Carolinas, whether you live in the West Coast, whether you live up Northwest, because again, I feel like that the Dirty Mo guys just, if you're not from the Southeast, pretty much, if you're not from that neck of the woods, then they don't care for you. And I think that we should, because I've seen people who watch my videos who are from like Brazil and from Sweden. I'm like, damn, that's so cool. Like, that's awesome. I'm glad to see guys from all over the world. It's great to have fans from all over the world, I remember I think Fox did like a 1,000 cams thing for the 2014 All-Star race, and like they were showing people from Brazil reacting to the race. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Look at that. We got fans in Brazil. Innovation is generally good, but sometimes I feel like Carlos Sainz, stop inventing. Anyhow. Okay, let's get to the main event. Okay. Make sure this is rolling.
Yes, we may see him in Cup sooner rather than later.
Let me know how the volume is.
Said, here is a look at all
and let me know if you guys see everything fine.
From the 2002 NASCAR Busch Series season. We had a lot of breakout drivers this year.
I want to make sure
and
this is good.
It is also a note that Blaze Alexander took home the Heritage Cup bonus once again for the third year in a row.
Okay,
Will anybody top him next season? We'll have to find out.
I have the stream muted on my laptop because I just want to make sure it's rolling
Casey
correctly.
King, Kurt Busch, Kerry Earnhardt had a huge breakout year as well, and it'll be interesting to see where they go next. All right,
take care, Paper Banjo. Thanks for stopping by.
And now it is time to cover the 2002 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season. A season that was packed with excitement, much like last season, as we witnessed Jeff Green
Winston Cup
part. His first NASCAR Winston Cup championship with Richard Childress Racing. Green is now looking to go back-to-back, but he will have a lot of competition this season. The Winston Cup schedule has 3 changes to the schedule for 2002, though only one affects points races. As announced last season, Nashville Superspeedway receives a Winston Cup date, replacing the fairgrounds at the Cup level. This new date will come from the first Michigan race, the weekend before the 4th of July. As previously discussed, Atlanta Motor Speedway will maintain the season finale for the foreseeable future, keeping Homestead Miami's points race in October. They do, however, get another marquee opportunity in 2002, hosting the Winston All-Star race in May. The rotating All-Star
It feels like consistently drivers in SNL pop up earlier than in real life.
Series race there. As for the
it is interesting because I mean,
international exhibition.
We saw Casey King just kind of explode onto the scene, right?
The postseason showcase to a new venue. NASCAR has raced in Australia, Asia, and South America. And now,
how do I put it? There are
to go
I feel
to
like
Europe.
Casey King
Barcelona, Spain, and
Ryan Newman kind of swapped careers.
Where 2002 and 2003.
Newman kind of exploded onto the scene, and it took
the exhibition returns on a road course.
Casey King a little
NASCAR's
bit.
best and a few guests compete in
very
Eastern Spain. 2002 silly season saw some of NASCAR's
now. There's a section of the silly season I'm going to pause here in just a second.
Changes on the hunt to become contenders. Let's start with the most notable team swap, which happened at Chip Ganassi Racing. After a very disappointing 2001 season, Ken Schrader leaves Ganassi's 01 car for a different opportunity. Taking over this car is someone Dodge hopes can continue momentum that led him to his first career win last season. Jerry Nadeau.
Thank God.
Nadeau leaves Petty Enterprises.
Sometimes it has a mind of its own, and I'm like,
takes the 43 soon. As for Schrader, he stays in the Dodge camp at a new full-time team, BAM Racing.
Shout out to Jet for these blender renders.
A year earlier than in real life.
Just something to
from Pizza Hut
continue to improve on the quality of our videos.
Motorsports. Another notable move occurred over at Jared.
Oh, hey, that guy ran the IROC race. Tommy Kendall.
Lack of success at the Cup level, Tommy Kendall leaves the 32 car, and it will be taken over.
Yeah, how about that? I saw that. I was like, hey!
After finishing second in the Busch Series last season. Discover Car takes over as the primary sponsor on that team, while Tommy Kendall takes over the number 96 PPI Motorsports car, with Eddie Bierschwell retiring after 2001. Finally, for the veterans, Robbie Gordon makes his return to full-time Winston Cup racing, replacing Rick Mast in the Jasper 77. As for the rookies, we have 3 drivers who were strong in the Busch Series getting called up to the big leagues. We begin with the series champion, Jimmy Johnson.
Okay, I'm going to pause this for a second. So this is something that Jet reminded me to talk about. So when he made this paint scheme, right? Obviously, you know what happens at the teaser at the very end, right? I want y'all to take what I'm circling it with my mouse right now. So just take a look at that. There is a reason why this number 30 was outlined the way it was. because it is outlined in the 3. So yes, we were basically hiding it in plain hindsight, and the Easter egg was always there. I don't know if this was brought up before, but yeah, the 30 was put this way to outline the Dale Earnhardt 3. So therefore, when you go watch the teaser there at the end, you know, there you go. So yeah, something that we wanted to point out before we continued was the fact that, this was kind of an Easter egg the entire time. So just a little fun fact for you guys there.
The 4th RCR team, the number 30 America Online Chevrolet, goes full-time this year, with the El Cajon native looking to impress with the championship team.
This is also why Jimmy's render does not show the roof number.
With a lot of excitement
the
around
roof
him.
Number was always the 3.
Adam Petty is coming home and will drive his grandfather's number 43 full-time. The Petty Enterprises team strengthens their relationship with Team Sapco, serving as the de facto 4th Sapco car,
so yeah,
while
little
his
fun
father
fact for y'all.
continues to drive the number 42. Lastly, for the rookie class, Busch Series veteran Tim Fudua takes over the Tide Ride, the number 36 MB2
man, if
car,
you guys have any questions for
Winston
anything,
Cup Racing a go. The 36's previous driver,
if you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask.
From full-time racing to move into broadcasting, though he will make a few starts this season in Junie Dunleavy's 90 car. In addition to these team storylines, the 2002 season sees a big shakeup on the sponsor side, and none are bigger than Shauna Robinson. Kmart's bankruptcy going into 2002 forced them to exit the sport, leaving a void with one of the sport's stars, Shauna Robinson. In 2002, Robinson will exchange the white, red, and purple for new colors, black and white. Sharpie and Rubbermaid joins Team Sapco with the number 40 car having a brand new look that will be split by the 2 sister brands throughout the season. Sharpie isn't the only new sponsor at Team Sapco this year, though, as Patty Moise also gets a new look. Alltel joins the 45 car.
Will Adam Petty's younger brother Austin appear?
Moise's primary paint scheme.
Barbie and we haven't really talked about that much.
A secondary sponsor,
but maybe that's something we can discuss or something like that.
The sponsor of their Busch All-Star car. Lastly, for full-time sponsors, Kellogg's returns to NASCAR after a few years away, joining Blaze Alexander for his sophomore season at Penske. Mobil One will continue to be a secondary sponsor for him as well. As for notable part-timers, Wood Brothers Racing will once again run a 3-driver rotation of Dick Trickle, Tony Roper, and Mark Simo. The 60-year-old Trickle also announced that this will be his final season of Winston Cup Racing, including one more entry in the Daytona 500, which he won in 1989. Haas CNC Racing will make its debut in the series, with its part-time 60 being driven by Tammy Jo Kirk. Dunleavy's number 90 car will be driven by Jason Hidleski and Wally Dallenbach. Meanwhile, a new Cup Series team is Quest Motor Racing, owned by Derek Cope. Cope will drive the number 37 Friendly's car.
Why did we pick Fudua to go to the 36? It was just kind of, we felt like that he deserved at least an opportunity to be in the Cup Series for kind of being a veteran in the Busch Series for so long.
However, at the
and we felt like that was a good fit for him.
They'll both be making an appearance, with Fellows in the 47 and Pruitt in a one-off number 44.
Andy Houston ran in the Super Sportsman Series. He was one of the Toyota guys.
Also featuring Carl Long and Brian Rose. Long will also once again drive for the Mansion Motorsports 58 team. Tim Richmond will once again enter some races.
I wonder if Patty Moise will flip in the Daytona 500 next year.
73 car.
I hope not.
And Morgan Shepherd driving his own 89. Bobby Labonte,
watch your win
Barry
because
Bodine,
you said
and
that.
Dave Blaney will drive for Team CLR. Hermie Sadler
How did Mark
returns to
Simo
the
do in his
13
road
at
course
Score
starts?
Motorsports. And finally, Mike Wallace
Well,
will
I could
attempt
probably
a
pull up the
one-off
results
at
real
Gateway
quick.
for Base Motorsports. With all that said, there's one last story we should cover before the season begins. That has to do with the Man in Black. 50-year-old Dale Earnhardt announced heading into the season that 2002 will be his final year racing full-time in the Winston Cup Series.
Mark Simo was 41st at Road America.
Race some different series while growing his own team, including driving for DEI on occasion over the next few years. The 3-time champion and 3-time Daytona 500 winner helped put Richard Childress Racing on the map. And with the team the best they've ever been, Dale will make one last dance with his owner of nearly 2 decades. Speed Weeks has officially returned, and as always, we kick things off with the Bud Shootout at Daytona, as Tony Stewart and Casey Elliott led the field to the start of the 20-lap exhibition race.
We don't have blowovers.
As usual, there were plenty of lead.
We've had some hard wrecks, but yeah.
Quite an exciting race. Halfway through, we saw a battle between father and son, as Dale Earnhardt led with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in second. Dale Jr. would then take the lead from his father. Shortly after, Casey Elliott would then take the lead. Then with 6 to go, Kyle Petty took control of the lead as the action began to heat up. Tony Stewart then led with 5 to go, but then Patty Moise took the lead in her new all-tail colors, with Dick Trickle giving her the push. What a run by the 61-year-old. But then on the move was Shauna Robinson, the 2-time Daytona 500 winner, as she got to second.
Yeah, like I said earlier,
and then she would take the lead with 3
we started
laps to
the
go.
2003 races
She had
now,
to hold
so
off last year's shootout winner, Ricky
really excited
Rudd,
to see how the season goes.
But she would indeed do so. As Shauna
And I'm really
Robinson
excited
would
for the
go
coming
on
seasons
to
for
win
sure.
the 2002 Bud Shootout, becoming the first female winner of this event, and her first win with her new sponsors.
Perhaps Shauna's the queen of Daytona.
Sometimes it just writes itself. Dale Earnhardt scored the pole for the first dual race, which means he will lead the field to the green flag for the 44th Daytona 500. Earnhardt and Marlin led the way as the Intimidator led for 4 laps. Ernie Irvan then took over the lead coming to lap 5, and then the lead would change a few hands as Kyle Petty would take over the lead on lap 11 from Kelly Earnhardt. Then a couple of laps later, Dale Seeger took the lead, but would then lose it to Paige Jones very quickly. Jones held his own very well for the next several laps, but then with 10 to go, he was challenged by Texas Terry himself, Terry Labonte.
Texas Terry.
Labonte would end up taking the lead. With 8 laps to go, he would then lose the lead to Sterling Marlin. DEI ran 1-2 at 5 to go, with Kelly Earnhardt leading and Tony Stewart in second. Stewart then took the lead, but then was passed by Kyle Petty coming to 4 to go.
It's honestly insane that
And
in the
with 3
span
to
of
go,
like 2 or 3
Shauna
weeks
Robinson was looking to go 2
that I've
for
been
2
able to
in
put
Speed
together
Weeks
like a
as she
3-hour
took
long
the lead,
video.
But on the final lap and heading down the
It's just-
backstretch, she
Oh, yeah,
was
that's right,
overtaken by the 2-time Winston Cup
Marlin car
champ,
that
Terry
my
Labonte.
idiot self messed
Labonte
up.
would go on to win dual race number 1, and even though it's a non-points race, it was a feel-good moment for Texas Terry to finally be back in victory lane. Now the question is, can he win the Great American Race? Rob Moroso posted the second fastest time in time trials, giving us an RCR front row for the Daytona 500. He and Casey Elliott led the field to the green flag to set the rest of the field. Rob Moroso would lead for the first couple of laps, but was then passed by Matt Kenseth. Moroso led for a while around the halfway point, but with 13 to go, Patty Moise was leading the way. RCR ran 1-2 at 5 to go, as rookie Jimmy Johnson was leading with
My first time with
Moroso in
YouTube
second,
was an old
and
NR
then
2003
Kelly
video.
Williams in third.
I remember discovering YouTube
Moroso
back in
would
like
take the lead shortly
2007.
after, and then
I remember
coming to
watching a
go,
bunch of old
Jeff
stadium
Gordon was trying
implosion
to get
videos for
past
some
Rob
reason.
Moroso for the lead,
I guess I should have
but he
known I
ends
was
up going
kind of
high into turn
autistic
1,
back then.
And here comes John Andretti.
So
Andretti with 3 wide going
the reason
into
why I
turn
say that is
1,
because
and he would
like
take
when
the
Rivers
lead
Front
with
Stadium
Norm
got imploded,
Benning
Veteran
right
Stadium and
behind
stuff
him.
like that.
Benning had ridden in the back all
Those are some of the
race,
first
but
videos I
suddenly
watched
found
on
himself
YouTube.
Second
And then it
with
became
2 to
this
go.
big thing, you know.
Andretti kept the lead as Dale Jr.
I remember
was working his way
YouTube
past
when
Benning
it
for
was starting
second,
out in the
and Dodge
olden
would go on to
days.
sweep the duel.
We just took a
as John
camera and
Andretti
filmed stuff.
wins
Anyway.
dual race number 2. The
Can he
field
win
is
the Great
set,
American Race?
but
Extremely
we did
loud
have
and
a
correct
handful of
buzzer.
drivers going home.
Uh,
The most notable of them being Tim Richmond. He fails to make
So,
the Daytona 500.
somebody asked about Dale running part-time. Yes.
Tommy Kendall,
So Dale's
Carl
full-time
Long,
career is
Bobby
over,
Labonte,
but he is
Derek
still going to
Cope,
run
and
part-time.
Rodney Orr. Here we are
so,
once again. It is a beautiful
I do mention that
afternoon in Daytona Beach,
I
Florida.
do say that during
can
the
only
ending
mean one
that he'll
thing.
be making
The
starts
start
at DEI.
of a new NASCAR Winston Cup Series
Dale will
season.
still be racing, but
Where
on a
else?
part-time level.
NASCAR's version of the Super Bowl the Daytona
I'm liking the mini storyline of
500.
Norm Benning showing up at Daytona and
Last year,
running
we
well.
saw Bubba
I do
Nixon
too.
snap
It's
a long
I don't know
winless
why,
route
but it's just like
as he made
a
last
fun
lap
story.
pass to win his second Daytona 500.
He kind of became like
Many
the next
stories ought to be
like
written.
Delma Cowart in a
Someone
way.
is looking to add
He's
their
like
name to
constantly making the
history books here
500 and
today.
running well. It makes for a fun story.
Here we go.
Part of
It
me's
is a
kind of
beautiful
scared one of these
February
days he's going to
afternoon.
win it, and I'm gonna be like,
42 drivers are chasing a dream. Over 170,000
about making the
people
duels.
are
How do you
in
determine the
attendance
drivers
as the
further
pace
back
car
in each
goes
duel?
down pit road? Dale Earnhardt and Ron Moroso
Oh, so-
lead the field to the green flag, and the 44th Daytona 500 is underway.
So how I do the duels is I go on a notepad, I list every single driver that's going to enter. I take that list, I put them in the random name generator, and I generate. And the odd numbers run duel 1, the even numbers run duel 2. And then that's how I do the duel races. And whoever wins the pole, obviously, for duel 1
Down the
will
back
start on the
stretch for
pole.
the first time,
Whoever
Dale
wins
Earnhardt
the pole
leads.
for duel
Terry
2
Labonte
will
is
start second.
Ernie Irvan leads
So,
that inside line.
that's
as they
kinda
get
how I
into
do
turn
it.
3. Now Terry Labonte looks to the
so,
inside
I don't know
of
if I've ever
Earnhardt,
shared that before.
and he's going to take the lead.
But yeah,
A clean start here as the 1984
Jim
and
Richmond might be
1987
washed.
Winston Cup champion.
Dale
has
Earnhardt
taken
in a truck
the
race
lead
would be cool.
as they come
Yeah,
back to
never
complete
know.
the first lap of the Great American Race. And those 5 bonus points
But
will
yeah,
go to
I go on to
Texas
Notepad.
Terry.
I list
Ernie
every
Irvan and
driver
Kyle
that I have
Petty.
entered,
A couple other
and then
Winston
I
Cup
put them all in
champions
random
there. Shauna
name
Robinson
generator.
in the mix
Whatever's
as well.
no, random
And
list
up front,
generator.
you
I'm
also
sorry.
see Alonso
Random
Jr.,
list generator.
who has
So
struggled
it'll
to
list
make
like
the
1
Daytona
through
500 the
54
last
or
couple
whatever.
years, so it's great
So
to see him
1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11,
race as he's
13,
currently
15,
running
17.
up front here early.
Those guys go
Down
to
the
duel
back
1.
stretch once again.
2, 4,
There's
6,
Kyle
8, 10, 12,
Petty
14,
in that
16 or
UPS
whatever.
Pontiac.
Go
He's
to
gonna
duel
dip
2.
to the inside.
That's kinda
Looks
how
like he
I
might have some help
set
from
that
Shauna
up.
Robinson as they head into turn
If that
3.
makes sense.
On board with Shauna
So you
Robinson
basically do
there,
RNG,
sporting her
Daytona
new
500
colors
qualifying.
with rubber
Kinda.
Sharpie this season.
It's worked
Looking
at
for her
least.
third Daytona
Maybe there's a
500.
different system I do down the road, but that's kind of always what
Petty, Robinson,
I've done for
Labonte, Unser,
for the Daytona
Urban
500.
make up your top 5. As they
Just
come
so,
to
because
lap
it's like,
3.
if I have 60 cars entered, right, it's going to be kind of hard to just try and do it straight up.
Alonso
So
Jr.
this
now
is kind
leads
of the
that
easiest way
inside
to do
line.
it.
You see Tony Stewart, last year's pole sitter, in that inside line as well. Sabco 1-2. Kyle Petty leading the way. Of course, Richard and Lee Petty, known here very well and have won here on multiple occasions. Kyle Petty would love to join them as a Daytona 500 champion. Al Unser Jr. peeking to the inside. He won
Kyle
second.
Petty winning the 500 before he retires would be cool, especially if he and then Adam can win it, so that all 4 generations of Petty have won the 500.
As they come off turn
That'd be
4,
kinda
he
neat.
continues to chase down Kyle Petty, and a picture-perfect start to the 44th Daytona 500. There's Blaze Alexander up to second. He's got some Fords behind him, including Alan Kowicki, the 1998 winner, Paige Jones, and of course, Rusty Wallace. Still chasing that elusive Daytona 500 as Blaze Alexander with his new Kellogg's Ford takes the lead as we go on board with Alan Kowicki, who's chasing his second Daytona 500. 12 laps in, Jeremy Mayfield leading the way for AJ Foyt.
I'm always excited to run the
see
500.
Jeff
I get
Gordon,
to
but
the
in
cup part and
front
I'm
of
like,
him,
all right.
How about
the
the
500?
rookie, the defending Busch Series champion,
And then I'm always
Jimmy Johnson,
typing in our server
as he takes the lead
and just saying,
trying
like,
to
what's
impress
happening.
early,
And
on board with Kelly Williams,
then I sit there and
who's
be like,
trying
man,
to
who's
have a
going to win the
better year
500?
this
Who's
year
going to,
for Jared Farr Motorsports.
It's just really
As they come off
exciting.
Turn 4, rookie Jimmy Johnson leads the Daytona
Jared Farr
500.
Motorsports. You know what's I before I started this stream, I saw a video of Dale Jarrett
Kelly Williams
appearing at
looks
the
to the
Nebraska
inside
football
of Jeff
practice
Gordon.
and just talking to the team
Dale
about
Jr. thought about going with her, but decided against it. But
what it takes to
Sterling
win
Marlin
and
will join
beating
her
the best
instead,
there is out there.
as Kelly Williams
Because he talked
takes her
about
Home
his
Depot
success winning the
Dodge to
championship
front
and how
here at Daytona.
when Ned Jarrett got to
Became an
call him
explosive star on
winning
the
him winning the
Supersportsman
500 in
circuit, later in
93,
the Busch
it was
Series,
also
and
the case
now
of
trying to make a
not
name
only
for
did I win the
herself here in
500,
the
but I
Winston
beat
Cup.
Dale Earnhardt, who was
Can she be the
the
next female
baddest
to
of drivers,
win the
right? He was a
Daytona
badass,
500? There's
and
still plenty
I
of
beat
racing
him,
to go.
you know?
As Sterling
So,
Marlin
you gotta
now
go out
takes
there and
lead
beat the
with
best.
Tim Steele behind him.
Indiana did that, you know?
So many lead changes.
It was just kind of cool. And not to mention, obviously, Dale Jarrett being with Brett Favre as an owner here in this timeline. So it was just kind of cool to see something like that. What was the decision of Kellogg's going to Penske? So
he's always been good here.
We felt like that with Penske and Safco that, you know, they were due to get some bigger sponsors. And we felt like that Kellogg's working with a younger driver like Blaze was just a really good fit. So,
out of this race early.
And
Rose
Jam did an amazing job with his Penske's.
Kelly
So,
Earnhardt
yeah.
trying to win a second Daytona 500. That would be 5.
Here's the other thing, too. Kelly Earnhardt always does well at Daytona
Casey
at the 500.
Elliott up there in the mix.
Obviously,
well,
she won it one year, but she always seems to run up front a lot in these 500s.
Coming to lap 28 now. Rob Moroso leads, Jeff Gordon behind him, but look who's behind Jeff Gordon. That is Norm Benning.
Benning.
He's always been that underdog story.
Norm Benning jump
finds
scare.
ways to make the Daytona 500. That's just him and his own little shop, his own team, and he has done so much
I wonder what would
to
have
make
happened
the
to Dale Jarrett
500. And look at this as he's running
Yeah,
up
would have been
front
interesting.
in his own
He
number
probably would have
84
done just as
Sauber
good.
Chevrolet. But now he's
yeah,
caught in the sucker
it's interesting
hole
to think about
as he's
that.
going to get passed by Terry Labonte and Kelly Earnhardt.
Storm and Norm. And the Sobe, I think I've read that Sobe wasn't necessarily discontinued, but like you can only buy it off of Amazon or something like that. But that drink's still out there. I remember them being in stores and stuff when I was a kid.
But here comes Rusty Wallace. Rusty Wallace. So many times of trying, and it's come up so close so many times.
Will Rusty ever win the 500?
The only thing he hasn't done in his Winston Cup career is win the Daytona 500. Can the two get it done in 2002? Still plenty of racing left, but Rusty Wallace driving hard. He wants to win that Daytona 500. Reaching the halfway point in the Great American Race, and green flag pit stops have begun. You see Ernie Irvan, Kyle Petty, and Kelly Earnhardt making their way down pit road.
I mean, and that's still going to be another story going into 2003. Can Rusty Wallace finally win the 500? He's almost in a similar spot Dale was in at this point, right?
So far.
Won everything. 5-time champion. But
we are.
he is yet to win the 500. Can he finally do it, right?
Bill Elliott, the 1987 winner, is leading, but he's got a massive pack chasing him down, consisting of John Andretti, Dale Senior,
resume,
Paige Jones, Matt Kenseth, Jerry Nadeau, Ricky Rudd, Patty Moise, and look at Dale Earnhardt as Dale Earnhardt jumps to the lead, looking for that fourth Daytona 500. As we take a look from Lake Lloyd, Paige Jones moves to second. Dale Earnhardt in his final full-time Winston Cup season wants to go off on a high note. Can he win the Great American Race one more time? Matt Kenseth, meanwhile, dives to the inside. He's going to get past Paige Jones. And remember, Kenseth, he has yet to win a Winston Cup race. He wants to do that this year. He needs this to be a big year for him. And he's going for it. He's going after Earnhardt.
What do you guys think? Do you guys think he'll win the 500?
In that DuPont 200 years.
How many 500s has Rusty completed in an SNL?
And he's most likely going to take the lead here.
You know, I've been meaning to
Matt
actually
Kenseth get his first
go back
career
and look
win
at
the Daytona 500. We've seen it before.
Let's see. I want to say, was this his first 500?
42 laps are complete. AK Racing runs 1-2. Ernie Irvan leads, but here comes Alan Kowicki. He has won at least a race every year since 1988.
I think Rusty's first 500
keep that streak alive, as well as
was 1983.
His second Daytona 500.
I think he's been in it ever since.
As the veterans lead the way. "20 laps to go. That is the view from Kenny Brack. And back comes Matt Kenseth. A pair of drivers trying to get their first career win.
Rusty ran
here
it
today.
in 82
Matt
as well.
Kenseth trying to represent the next generation.
So
the
just
young
about
guns.
20 years of trying, 20 years of frustration.
Driving for Roger Penske, but look at this. Chad Little, the 1999 winner who pulled out that massive upset. That was his only career Cup win. Can he get his second here today as we go on board with that DeWalt Pontiac for Joe Gibbs Racing? Chad Little trying to chase down Matt Kenseth as we're entering the closing stages of this year's Daytona 500.
Let's see, 1984. Trying to see if Rusty ran in it.
10 laps to go at the line. Kelly Earnhardt leads. Kenny Brack second. But look at this.
Maybe this was
Dale
a race
Earnhardt to the inside of Brack. And now it's an Earnhardt 1-2. Kelly Earnhardt leads. It's daughter versus father. You can't write this better enough, folks. Could it come down to the family of Earnhardts as they come off turn 2 and down the backstretch? The crowd goes
Yeah, this
wild.
is a cool moment right here.
This moment. And Dale Earnhardt, he dips to the inside.
Watching Dale and his daughter just duke it out for the lead here.
To the inside of Kelly
this was cool.
And now he's going to take the lead. He's got help from the 93 of Paige Jones. Dale Sr., less than 10 laps away from a Fort Daytona 500. Can he do it? Can the Intimidator win it in his final full-time season?
I believe Rusty DNQ'd once early in his career.
Yeah, trying to hold
that's something I'll need to look back and like look at all his results, but I think this was like his 20th or 21st.
He got his first career Cup win in this very race as a rookie when he drove for Rick Hendrick.
Let's see. I don't think Jeff Gordon will win a championship unless he leaves Bill Davis Racing.
This is for all the marbles. 4 laps remain.
We'll see.
Kelly Earnhardt wants second for
maybe
Patty
Moise. Fall off his
and now it's once again father versus daughter.
Yes. Chad Little is a
Daytona
500 champion this timeline.
Wins. Then you got Kenny Brack in third. Can the Swede win the 500? Bill Elliott up there looking for his second. Earnhardt and Brack dive to the inside. Into turn 3, here we go. Kelly Earnhardt to the inside of her own father. She takes the lead with help from Kenny Brack. And off turn 4, Kelly Earnhardt, who has been so consistent in this race. She's been close multiple times since winning it her rookie year. 3 laps remain in the Great American Race. Kelly Earnhardt trying to get DEI back in victory lane. She won the 600 last year. She wants to continue that momentum this season. Chad Little, meanwhile, is up to second. John Nemechek in the mix. However, the 51, I will note, is lapped. He is a lap down and is not a factor to win this race, but could be a factor in the outcome of it. And here's Chad Little to the inside of Kelly Earnhardt. How about Chad Little in the 17? This looks like 1999 all over again, because this was the 1-2. And Little's going to get help from the lap car of Nemechek as they come off turn 4, back to the tri-oval. 2 more times around this 2.5-mile oval. 2 laps remain. Chad Little still leading. Ernie Irvin's up there. Matt Kenseth as well. It's not over until it is over. It's not over until that checkered flag
That's definitely my goal with the 500.
On board with John Nemechek. Again, he's a lap
This
car.
is the race where I give the racing
Somebody's got to get past him quick if they want to win this race.
It's the 500.
Running out of time.
I want to sell those big
moments. Down the backstretch for the second to last time. Who's going to make the move here? Nemechek's going to go.
I wonder what Brock Pierce's documentaries look like in the SNL timeline.
But Matt Kenseth's now going to play this to his advantage.
To think about.
Here comes Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth has the opportunity of a lifetime to win the Daytona 500 for his first win. He finally wants to get his first Winston Cup win. He wants to get into victory lane. White flag, final lap of the 44th Daytona 500. Matt Kenseth's going to take the lead, and John Andretti is behind him for Jarrett Farr Motorsports. John Andretti wants to join Mario as a Daytona 500 winner. Does he have enough time? Down the backstretch for the final time, it's Kenseth and Andretti. 2 drivers fighting for their first career wins. Paige Jones in third. Andretti,
because Andretti had some good moments, but just couldn't get the job done.
Here. Through turns 3 and 4, coming to the finish. Checkered flag is waving, and it's going to be the young Wisconsin native, Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth wins the Daytona 500. Matt Kenseth finally gets his first
7 years sooner than in real life.
And we've seen it happen over the years.
And in the DuPont 200 years car.
Career win at the Daytona 500. Finally, Matt Kenseth is a winner in the Winston Cup Series. As you
pretty much went off after that.
10, what an exciting finish in this race. And how about John Andretti with an impressive debut in his new Cup ride. We head over to Rockingham, North Carolina for race 2 of the 2002 season as Rob Moroso scored the pole with Adam Petty starting alongside him. Moroso built an early lead as Casey Elliott found his way to second. It was clear Moroso's team brought a fast car with them. On lap 28, Bill Elliott and Kyle Petty were battling for 10th when Petty ran into the 9, sending Elliott into
Kyle
the wall,
Petty's
spinning to bring
half
out the caution.
season from hell, and then the second half looked like a championship driver.
Moroso continued to lead after the restart, but on the move was our defending champion, Jeff Green. Green quickly got past Casey.
Do you think
Elliott
Alan went to congratulate his fellow Wisconsinite?
His RCR teammate.
Oh, I'm sure he would have gone over and
then on lap 45, Green
congratulated him for sure.
As they duked it out for the lead.
You've seen cases of that where even if they're not teammates, are going over congratulating guys and stuff like that.
Were the class of the field.
I think Alan would have been happy for him.
On the other end of RCR, we had trouble on lap 56 when Jimmy Johnson ran right into the quarter panel.
I remember when this happened, and I was like, "No!"
Johnson also.
I'm like, Jimmy, you're supposed to take the 3. Don't do that.
Rob Moroso gained the lead back during pit stops and led the field back to the green.
Yeah, I've been working on trying to improve camera angles too, to really.
Was able to handle lap
I guess give it like a cinematic.
Better.
Absolute cinema.
Took place
give it a
cinematic
feature in a way.
This time, put Jeff Green ahead of Moroso by over 3 seconds. It all looked like Green was going to.
All Matt needed was a different paint scheme.
Until 8 laps to go. Blaze Alexander had pit off sequence and had fresher tires
without a hood,
causing him to catch a group of cars swarming Green. Alexander drove hard into turn 3, getting into the 31 and sending Jeff Green into the wall. Jeff Green got it back going quickly, but he would lose the lead to Rob Moroso. We ended up with a 3-lap dash to the finish as a lap car Bubba Nissen was in between Moroso and Green. Green tried to find a way around Moroso, but couldn't. And then this led to a massive charge from our Daytona 500 winner, Matt Kenseth. Kenseth takes second with 2 to go, and on the final lap, he got around Nissen. Kenseth tried to find an opening coming to the checkers, but ran out of time as Rob Moroso picks up his first win of 2002. Despite earlier troubles, Jimmy Johnson finished 10th after his mishap. We head next to Sin City.
Jimmy and Dale pulled a Gibbs Hamlin.
With a white-hot Matt Kenseth starting in second. However, things had changed pretty quick on the first lap when Sterling Marlin and Ernie Irvan got together as Irvan went up into the wall in turn 3 to bring out the caution. Most of the leaders pit, but some stayed out, and Bill Elliott restarted as the leader with Adam Petty in second. By lap 14, Adam Petty would take the lead, with Blaze Alexander working his way up to second, while Matt Kenseth would get to third. Petty and others began to pit around lap 30, and then on lap 34, Casey Elliott ran into Matt Kenseth, who had just come off pit road, and Elliott spun and hit the wall to bring out the caution. Shauna Robinson restarted as leader, but shortly after would lose the lead to our defending champion, Jeff Green. Green took the lead, and he never looked back. Jeff Green kicks off his tile defense with his first win of the season at Las Vegas. Paige Jones was second, and Davey Allison had a good day, finishing in third. This would kick off a monstrous start to the season for the 31 team, as Jeff Green would win again at Infineon, and then would go 3 in a row after that to win at Atlanta. There were definitely no signs of a championship hangover.
Tyler Reddick Green. Sorry.
The last 2 Busch champions and good friends were on the front row for Darlington, as Jimmy Johnson scored his first career Winston Cup pole.
That's something I'm excited for in the coming seasons. Watching
Johnson
Jimmy
led
and Blaze
for the opening portion of the
out
race.
there on the track together.
Casey Elliott did take second from Alexander from the start, but Alexander charged back up to second in no time. Green flag pit stops took place 30 laps in, and after that, Johnson wound up in second as Casey Elliott took the lead. Then on lap 61,
it's nice
Johnson
to see Casey Elliott finally coming into his own too.
Just right before
took him a bit, but he's gotten it figured out.
But Casey Elliott pit ahead
the move
of
to
Johnson,
Dodge definitely helped him.
Lead right
I'll
back
say that as
after
much.
that cycle was completed. On lap 79, Casey Elliott got out of shape, and back came the rookie. Jimmy Johnson would lead for a third time in the race, and Johnson had another great pit stop.
More like
in
Jeff
the final
Christopher
round of
Belgreen.
pit stops. He was looking to get his first Winston Cup win, and he was looking strong. But with under 20 laps to go, Jeff Gordon ran him down and would take the lead from Johnson.
Specials at Sonoma.
With 3 laps to go, Johnson would have to pit as he ran low on fuel. He was running in second, having a strong day, and would instead end up finishing in 19th. Jeff Gordon, meanwhile, would pick up his first win of 2002. Jeff Green continues his white-hot start to the 2002 season as he scores the pole for Louisiana. Patty Moise started alongside him, but quickly Shauna Robinson jumped up to second.
See, Pruitt was 39.
Green looked strong once again, but on lap 18, the first caution came out for Jeff Gordon when he suddenly lost power and came to a stop. Jeff Gordon would return to the race.
See Kenny Brack, 22nd.
The race restarted on lap 25, but we immediately had a problem as Dale Jr. ran into his teammate Tony Stewart, spinning the 15 as Dale Sr. watched in his rearview mirror. Mark Martin slammed into Tony Stewart with nowhere to go, collecting Matt Kenseth as many others swarmed to avoid it. We then went to restart on lap 31 as car number 31, Jeff Green, continued to lead. On lap 47, Tommy Kendall got loose coming off turn 2, causing Paige Jones to run into him.
Oh, absolutely.
Kendall was trying to get to pit road.
We definitely tried to include
Green and Moroso out, but got into Ken Schrader, sending Schrader spinning into the pit road wall. He was able to keep the 49 going, and we went back to racing on lap 53 as Moroso was right behind Green. And right behind them was Kenny Brack.
Pretty soon,
the Swede was looking very strong today.
The walls in some of these tracks.
Moroso spent several laps trying to find a way past his teammate, and he finally did so on lap 108. Moroso took the lead, and Kenny Brack entered the fray, taking second from Green.
Just something I got to get used to.
Ken Schrader went for a spin on lap 115 to bring out the next
Kenny
caution
Wallace
of the race.
Driving the MLB opening day car.
Spots on pit road. Moroso and Brack led the field back to the green flag.
I don't know what it is, but Kenny Brack's just good on short tracks sometimes.
For an opening to take the lead, and he had it for a moment. However, lap traffic got in his way and caused him to lose
Kentucky Speedway exist in
SNL? To Sterling Marlin.
So, all I can say right now is we do have a plan for Kentucky. We're still figuring out the details of that, but
as Sterling Marlin
we do have a plan for that. That's something where you just got to stay tuned for. But we do have a plan for Kentucky. Yes.
Lead over Rob Moroso. It was a beautiful spring afternoon in College Station, Texas, as Blaze Alexander and Rob Moroso led the field to the green flag. Right away, Blaze Alexander was looking strong.
The new and improved Texas World.
A 4-car breakaway between him, Kyle Petty, Patty Moise, and Matt Kenseth. Then, a few laps later,
world in Texas.
Shauna Robinson, Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Green, and Jimmy Johnson entered the picture. There was 3 wide and even 4 wide racing at one point as Dale Sr. was on
Texas
the move.
World puts on some really fun racing.
By lap 19, Kyle Petty took the lead. And Dale Earnhardt
I included the
second.
condominium from
Then
Texas Motor Speedway.
Dale
there off turn 2.
Earnhardt took the lead. Green flag pit stops then took place, and the caution would come out when there was a stack up in turn 3, causing Bill Elliott and Ernie Irvan to run into Mark Martin, and Joe Nemechek would also run into Irvan. That would be it. The race restarted on lap 29 with Blaze Alexander leading, Dale Sr. in second, with Casey Elliott, Patty Moise, and Sterling Marlin in the top 5.
Texas World.
Things were calm as Alexander was back out in front, but another teammate of his was charging through the field. That being Rusty Wallace.
Super Rusty.
Rusty Wallace would then take the lead with 22 laps to go, and right after that, Wallace and Alexander head down pit road for a clean round of green flag pit stops. From that point on, it was all Rusty Wallace. He was far out in front, and Rusty Wallace would pick up his first win of 2002 at Texas World. There were a lot of storylines up front.
And
for
now we
Road
go
America,
to a
as
road
Dale Earnhardt
that's
started
American.
On pole with Bill Elliott aside, looking to break his
The
winless
American
drought
road.
at the very track his
Road
nephew
What am
got
I
his
doing?
first win at a year ago. Earnhardt dominated the early stage of the race, but he had a bad break on pit road, losing the lead to Elliott on the second run, who was being chased down by Jeff Green and Jimmy Johnson. Elliott pulled ahead for a time before his own pit stop saw a change up front. Leapfrogging all the leaders on a short pit was, who else but Rusty Wallace.
Who else but Rusty?
With Elliott taking second and Green and Kyle Petty having a thrilling battle for third. Wallace and Elliott pulled away and pit together on the final stop, with Rusty Wallace ahead once again. His teammate Sterling Marlin had a few laps on an alternative pit strategy, and while stopping later did help him steal a top 5, he couldn't steal the win. The Blue Deuce claims victory at Road America, and Rusty Wallace takes home the win. After a down year last year with only 1 points win, he's won twice in the first phase of the season. Is the 90s greatest driver back?
In Rusty we trusty.
31 cars are
Amen.
lined up to try and make the run for $1 million, as Jimmy Johnson started on the pole for the Winston Open, but he was quickly overtaken by the 1999 champion Ernie Irvan. Irvan would end up driving
We now
away
take our
from the
talents to
field.
South Beach.
He would go on to dominate and win the All-Star Open, and he will advance to
Road
the
America
All-Star
was
race.
a perfect track for the 4th of July date.
Rob Moroso and Shauna Robinson.
Yeah, it was
were
fun
on
seeing the
front
Cup
row
Series
to
run there.
begin the
I think
2002
NASCAR will
Winston
go back
All-Star,
there at some point.
as Moroso would lead for the first
They'll go back.
couple
I
of
think they'll go
laps,
back at some
but
point.
he
I'm
would
sure of
quickly
it.
lose the lead to last
I don't know
year's
when,
winner,
but I think they'll
Rusty
go back.
Wallace. Despite everything Moroso could
Super
do,
rusty.
Wallace looked very strong in the opening stage. He would lead them to the end of stage 1, where everyone would pit before taking on a longer stage. Shortly after the restart, the lead changed to Kyle Petty, who had been having a season from hell up to this point. His teammate Shauna Robinson jumped to second, with Paige Jones in
What's
the mix
funny
as
about
well.
this is
It was
I
Sacco
run
1-2
one of the
for most
last
of
races
stage
I
2,
run before I
as most
start
of
the
field
video.
would pit late.
I get done with the
Then to begin
season.
stage 3,
Then I go
Paige
back
Jones
and do
would
the
have
All-Star
the lead
race.
with Matt Kenseth in second
And the
Kyle
international
Petty in third
race.
as we
So
restarted.
I do the
with 12
international
laps to
race,
go.
and then I do
And
the All-Star
immediately
race.
on the move was Kyle Petty. He wasted
sometimes
no
I
time
swap
getting
it or
up to
whatever,
the front
but-
as he would take the lead.
So it's really funny
Despite
that
a horrific start to the season,
Kyle
a
Petty
win like this
won
could
this
surely
race,
turn
considering
things
that the
around
second half
in the
went so
right
much better for
direction
him.
for that 42 team, as Kyle Petty goes on to win the All-Star race for the first time in his career. Stock car racing's longest night
wonder if
has
Rusty's
once again
nickname this
arrived.
timeline is
The
the Miller
Coca-Cola
time.
600. Rob Moroso
one.
scored the pole with Jeff Green beside
If
him
I'm not here for the
as
end of the stream, then good
600-mile
afternoon, good
journey
evening, good night.
began.
Appreciate you
Moroso
stopping by,
led for
Brian.
the
Thank
first
you.
6 laps, but coming to lap
appreciate
7,
all you guys stopping
Jeff
by as
Green
always.
powered on the outside to take the lead for a moment. Moroso, however, quickly fought back and drove away. Then on lap 13, Jeff Green came right back, this time on the inside, and took the lead with Shauna Robinson looking to follow suit. After that, Jeff Green dominated and led for the most laps. He just about looked unstoppable, but then on lap 85, as he and second place Jeff Gordon went to pit, the caution came out for debris. Everyone else went to pit, putting Green and Gordon back out in front, with Tim Steele leading the way. Steele did not pit, and suddenly came down with a massive problem. He didn't get going right away, and held up all of the leaders.
Tim wasn't him.
With 40 laps to go, Jeff Green was still leading, but had Rusty Wallace behind him. When many thought Wallace was going to catch fire, it was actually Rob Moroso, as he went past Wallace for second. After the final round of pit stops, the action heated up late into the night. And with 15 to go, it was Green, Moroso, and Paige Jones the top 3. Then with 12 to go, Moroso caught Green and would take the lead. Not only that, but Paige Jones was on the move, and he would take second as Green began to fade back. Jones was putting down faster laps as Moroso was held up by the lap car, Tim Steele. With 8 laps to go, Moroso tried to get past Steele, but he fails. He loses a ton of momentum, and here comes Paige Jones. Paige Jones took the lead with 7 laps to go, but Rob Moroso came charging back, and he had help. Jimmy Johnson joined the mix, giving Moroso a push. But Jones was hanging tough, as he and Moroso were side by side for the win. Then coming to 4 to go, Johnson gave Moroso the push he needed to get past Jones. Rob Moroso drove away to pick up the win in the Coca-Cola 600. This marks Moroso's second win of the season and his second Coke 600 win, with his first coming in 1996.
I think
Pace
Rob
Jones
Moroso
finished
finally gets the
second,
monkey off
with
his
Jimmy
back and
Johnson
wins the
third.
Winston Cup in
Kelly
2003.
Williams also earned a top
That's
10,
another
finishing
storyline,
in
honestly.
10th.
Will Rob Moroso finally get that
It's time
championship?
to play the music and light the lights, because the Muppet Show paint schemes are in town for Chicago, as Patty Moise started on pole with her Ralph the Dog paint scheme and was the dominant car for much of the race, while Ernie Irvan looked to snap his cold spell in second.
The Muppets cars.
Moise had a large lead, but multiple others had good long-run cars battling for spots behind her. Matt Kenseth worked his way up to second later in the race, with Blaze Alexander and Jimmy Johnson behind. But where things got crazy was pit stops. Moise and Johnson kicked off a very late round
Moroso's
of
the
final
Mark
pit
Martin of
stops
SNL.
with 5 laps to go, but then we had a caution that ended the race under yellow as Jeremy Mayfield broke down in turn 3, getting spun by Alan Kulwicki. Moise had the best car all day, but had to settle for 12th after a terrible break. A few cars ran out of fuel under yellow, but that was not an issue for Roger Penske's team. Matt Kenseth had stayed out before the yellow and led the field back around a few more
in
times
case you didn't
for
notice,
his third win
I
of
added
the
seats
season.
in turns 3 and 4
behind him,
of the
Blaze
track.
Alexander finished second, Rusty Wallace third.
Are you a man or are you a
One,
Muppet?
2, 3.
Hey, Kyle
As
Petty,
previously
we need to
mentioned,
race the
this
truck.
race featured
Race
the
the truck.
Muppets cars that were
Um,
painted across
yeah.
myself.
I added
Jeff's
seating in
Racing
turns
Designs,
3 and 4.
and Rose Jam. The teams featured
'cause
for the Muppets cars
I feel like
are
it-
the
because
AK
it has a cup
Racing
date, I feel
cars
like it
of
would have done
Alan
that.
Kulwicki and Ernie Irvan.
And plus, there was
The
a rendering that
Evernham
had
Motorsports
seating in turns
cars
3
of
and 4 of that
Ricky
track
Rudd
when it
and
opened.
Casey Elliott. The Sapco Pontiacs of Kyle Petty, Patty Moise, and Shauna Robinson, as well as the Kenny Wallace Celebrity Motorsports entry. A starting lineup full of storylines kicked off an instant classic at Pocono. It was an all
Mark Martin's
front
had
row
better
as
seasons
Dale
on this
Earnhardt Jr.
timeline.
scored the pole with his father alongside
He's been
in
struggling a
second.
bit for sure.
Dale Jr. was out to an early lead with a very competitive front pack of them with 2 young guns, Casey Elliott and Jimmy Johnson. Elliott took second away from the elder Earnhardt a few laps in, but Johnson bump dragged his teammate and mentor to take the spot back. Father and son got side by side for the lead a few times, but over time, Dale Sr. slipped up a bit and Jimmy Johnson took his spot. After the first set of pit stops, Johnson had a lead on Dale Jr., who showed momentum early on. However, Dale Jr. faded back quick and surrendered second to Jeff Green, who later caught Jimmy Johnson to take the lead shortly after the halfway point. Where things got thrilling, however, was another pair of family members taking a unique strategy together. Casey Elliott and Uncle Bill both decided to make an extra stop on the third run. Getting a lead on Green and Johnson, we had an Elliott 1-2 with Casey leading the way. They were hedging their bets on others running out of fuel on the final run early. Green and Johnson ran down the Elliots as their tires got older, and after their third pit stops, Green just got a little
An SNL
distance on
Muppets commercial
Johnson
would be hilarious.
until he
Oh, I'd
ran
love to
out
see that.
with 2 to go. Jeff Green had to pit, and Jimmy Johnson was all by himself in front, coming to the white flag. Jimmy Johnson earns his first career Winston Cup win at Pocono.
I'm Jimmy Johnson. Boom!
Jeff Green
Confetti.
finished 12th after his splash and go, while Casey and Bill's strategy helped them rebound enough for 13th and 14th, but not a top 10. What an incredibly memorable day at Pocono, one where we could be seeing the birth of a NASCAR superstar. This race featured the Nike NBA Finals cars as Jeff Green
Fitting for the
represented
Nets,
the New
but at least
Jersey
they don't
Nets.
burn the city down
Once again,
win or
Patty
lose.
Moise represented the LA Lakers. It
Ah,
was an
yes.
action-packed day
The
up in
Lakers.
New Hampshire as Rob Moroso and Shauna Robinson led the field to the green flag.
Yeah, the track we're racing at
Moroso
this
led
weekend.
the way early with Robinson behind
New
him in
Hampshire.
second, but by lap
Who wins a
24,
giant
Jeff
lobster?
Green jumped from third to first in just the span of 2 laps, and it looked like he had a rocket. By lap 45,
Rocket?
green flag pit stops took
Damn it.
place, but we had trouble with the leader as Jeff Green ran into Mark Martin, who had just come off pit road.
Mark
and
Martin's
they
just
both
been in all
ended up
kinds of
wrecking.
incidents like this
Green appeared
this
to be
season.
okay
Come to
despite
think
losing
about
the
it.
lead, as
Jeez.
he would restart in 19th. Meanwhile, Shauna Robinson would lead the way. On lap 52, Patty Moise turned Terry Labonte coming off turn 2 in front of traffic, and Tim Steele ran into Moise. However, Dale Earnhardt Jr. had some incredible wreck avoidance as the wreck happened right in front of him but came out unscathed. Shauna Robinson remained the leader after the restart, and eventually Jeff Gordon found himself in second. Then on lap 63, Jeff Gordon chased down Shauna Robinson, and he got into a battle with the 40. Gordon would then take the lead, looking for his second win of the season. However, Jeff Green had a rocket. Jeff Green, after restarting 19th, made it to 5th and continued to climb. He worked his way past John Nemechek, then Rob Moroso, and then Blaze Alexander, and eventually by lap 74, Jeff Green caught Jeff Gordon and would work his way past the 1.
This was a pretty fun New
Right as
Hampshire
that
race,
happened,
honestly.
the caution would come out when Tim Steele ran into Chad Little going into turn 3, and they both go wrecking. Jeff Green restarted with the lead, but instead of him driving away, Jeff Gordon stayed with him. And by lap 85, Gordon and Green were battling for the lead. But Green was able to stick to the outside well and hang on. A few laps later, Gordon tried again, and they were putting on a show for the fans. Not only that, Gordon finally cleared Green for the lead. With 16 to go,
The battle of the
3
Jets.
wide went very wrong as Ernie Irvin went up the track into Casey Elliott, who went up into John Andretti, who was also running 10th. Andretti slides up into the wall.
See, that's what I mean. John
Great
Andretti had
late
some solid
caution.
runs going in 2002,
Under 10
but then
laps to
stuff
go,
like that would
Rob
happen to him.
Moroso's car suddenly
like,
came to life as he zoomed past Green, and then with 6 to go, Moroso was to the inside of Gordon. Moroso and Gordon kept going side by side, back and forth, all the way to the final lap as Gordon hung tough on the outside, and even though Moroso looked fast, Jeff Gordon had enough to hang on, and he would pick up his second win of 2002 at New Hampshire. Our lone new track on the Winston Cup schedule. It opened last year with the lower series, and now it was time for the spotlight on the Winston Cup series. Rob Moroso earned his third pole in 5 races, and early on it was a battle between Richard Childress Racing and Evernham Motorsports, with Casey and Bill Elliott together.
Yes, I
at the
completely
front
forget to
once
mention
again,
that.
while Rob Moroso was being pushed.
As I completely
along by
forget to
Dale
mention that
Earnhardt.
Robbie Gordon blew his
Kenny
engine.
Brack also had a great start amid his surprisingly strong season, starting 4th.
I think I
and
just
running
forgot to
early
mention that
before
and just
falling
like,
behind the
yeah.
heavyweights. Bill Elliott peeked around Moroso a few times, but couldn't make a pass, and Moroso ultimately cleared to take the lead. Before first pit stops, we had a yellow. Kyle Petty's season from hell continues as he gets hooked by Paige Jones and goes up into his teammate Patty
Poor
Moise
Kyle.
and slams the wall. Moise would continue with damage, but
Sorry,
Petty was
your
done for the
package
day.
delivery has been delayed.
Moroso paced the field
Reasoning,
for a while,
car wrecked.
but pitting under Green changed the complexion of the race. Moroso had
What
a
can
slow
Brown
stop
not
on
do
pit
for you?
road, and Dale Earnhardt was the one to lead the pack that pit together, but not before Jeff Gordon and Sterling Marlin jumped him on the short bit. The longer run saw Gordon continue to lead, but he was run down by a new challenger, Shauna Robinson, who was wicked fast in the second half of the race. She would ultimately tear into Gordon's advantage, but while she took the lead, Gordon would leapfrog her again by short pitting final pit stops, in which the field was a bit close on fuel once again. Also, for Nashville and Daytona, Jeff Gordon drove a special McDonald's paint scheme with Island Vibes, promoting the Lilo and Stitch movie and Happy Meal. Robinson tried to run down Gordon, as well as Matt
Jet did a
Kenseth,
really good
who
job on
joined
that
her in
paint scheme.
cutting down his lead on the final run. Gordon got held up a bit by Patty Moise, trying to stay on the lead lap, which helped her teammate. But none of it mattered, because Jeff Gordon was short on fuel and had to pit with 5 laps to go. Many of the leaders were short. Who took the lead amid this chaos? It was Casey Elliott, who stopped a few laps later than the rest of the field. He and Dale Earnhardt were the only 2 drivers to stretch the previous run long, but they got exactly what the doctor ordered. He only led the last 2 laps of the race,
And he
but
wins
they
a
were the
guitar.
most important ones. as Casey Elliott
To quote Scott
wins
Steiner,
the inaugural Winston
"What are you
Cup
gonna do?
race
Play the
at
guitar?
Nashville
I can't
Super
play the
Speedway.
guitar."
That's his first win of 2002 and the third win for his career at Evernham Motorsports. Dale Earnhardt finished second, and Adam Petty had a quietly great run and the right fuel strategy, coming home in third. After Jeff Gordon picked up his third win of the season at the Daytona Road Course, we reached the halfway point in the season. The championship battle has gotten very interesting, as Jeff Green had lost the points lead to Rusty Wallace. But Green is only back by 11, and now Jeff Gordon has entered the title picture.
Fun fact,
by
the
19
engine
points.
cut in the hood uses a
Rosso
real
and
photo
Ruiz
of
are
Robert
there
Yates'
as well.
car from the
They
time
can get a
of the Leo
major
Sitch
breakthrough.
scheme. Yep.
We then
That was
had a
pretty cool.
fun one in San Diego with many of the series' best winless drivers up front. Tony
I
Stewart
could picture
started
the
on
UPS
pole,
commercials
but
with
it was
Kyle
his
Petty
boss
and Dale
man,
Jarrett's
Dale
role with the
Earnhardt,
UPS
pulling
people.
away with the
Sir
lead
Jackie
from the
Stewart trying to
outside.
convince him to race
That
the
was
truck.
along with Ernie Irvan, who went winless last season.
I know there was a
Earnhardt
commercial
had the
that
best
Dale
car of
Jarrett
the
did
day,
with his dad
led
Ned,
much of the first half,
where Ned was
despite
trying to
numerous
disguise
attempts
as
from
Dale
Irvin
so that he
and
could
another
drive the
driver
truck.
who had
I could see
long-run
Kyle
pace.
and Richard doing
Kyle
that.
Petty trying to go for the lead. Those three would ultimately form the 5-car breakaway
Just
of
like,
contenders
Dad?
with Tony Stewart
Sorry,
and
Kyle.
Jeff Gordon.
Just wanted to drive the truck.
But towards the end of the race, Ernie Irvan took advantage by short pitting. Two drivers with very disappointing seasons now ran 1-2, looking to end their winless droughts. And thanks to lap traffic, the Black 11 car pulled away. He had a remarkable 1999 championship run, then only got one win after that, which was the night race at Bristol in 2000. But after nearly a 2-year-long drought, Ernie Irvan returns to victory lane and does it in his home state. A much-needed win for him, and the first win on the year for AK Racing. Our second trip to
AK
Pocono
Racing had a bit of a
just as wild of
down
a
year in
finish as the
2002.
first. But let's talk about the run-up to it. Jeff Green started on pole with RCR taking up 3 of the top 4 spots, as Earnhardt and Johnson also started up front, as did Bill Elliott, who had a great run here a couple months ago. Elliott had the fastest car early and took the lead from Green, while Kyle Petty had a great start. It was the veterans up front early, as the pack consisted of Elliott, Green, and Petty battling for the lead, with Dale Sr. not far back either. Kyle Petty would eventually take the lead and dominate the day, following up his great run at SoCal. Petty took the lead and ran on his own and never looked back. The pit cycle saw Penske Racing get more momentum, with Blaze Alexander climbing to second and Rusty Wallace behind him. Petty had a 4-second lead
Even
early,
funnier version
but
of that
Alexander
commercial.
caught him with
Not
5
only
laps
does
to
Richard
go.
disguise himself
Until
as
the lap car
Kyle,
of
but so does
Todd
Adam.
Bodine
The whole
helped
family
Petty
wants to
pull
race the
away.
truck.
Kyle Petty pulled
That
ahead
would be
in
funny as
one
heck. I
with
would
a
love to see
big
that.
lead amid his
That would be pretty
disastrous
funny.
season,
It's
where
like, you
things
too,
were
Adam?
finally going right.
I just want
as
to race
we
the truck,
reached the
Dad.
halfway point of the season.
That'd be cool.
But Kyle Petty blew his engine with a lap and a half to go. Absolute shock. As Kyle
I felt
Petty
like this
led
was
all
just the
but
lowest
6
of lows for
laps
Kyle
in this
Petty in
race
this season.
and finished
It's like,
dead
good
last.
lord, what else can
But
happen to
also,
him?
even behind him, the Sutton battle for the win heated up, as Rusty Wallace clearly had the faster car than Alexander and cut into his new lead noticeably past the white flag. Wallace may have had a shot to win with another lap or two, but instead, it's Blaze Alexander picking up his second career win at the same track he got his first exactly a year ago. This was yet another fun, eventful Brickyard 400 with many storylines on hand. Matt
I
Kenseth
guess
scored the
since
pole
people
with Jeff
kept
Green
making
in
this
second,
comment during
as
the
Matt
Brickyard
Kenseth
this week,
led early
during
on,
this
looking
season,
strong. Could
guess
you
you can say
imagine
they,
if he
this
could
race
win the
was
Daytona
bricked up.
500 and Brickyard 400?
Because everyone kept
in the
saying that,
same
I'm like,
year?
what is this, the
Blaze
Freakyard
Alexander
400?
was able to get second from Jeff Green, but by lap 16, we had green flag pit stops begin. One lap later, the caution came out when Jerry Nadeau, Bubba Nissen, and Adam Petty came off pit road 3 wide, and
Let
it
me
did
go
not
first.
end well as
Me.
Nadeau made contact and lost control sliding up the track, also having Kenny Wallace slightly clip him, but both of them would keep going. Matt Kenseth remained the leader at the restart, but on the move all of a sudden was John Nemechek. By lap 22, Nemechek was on the move, and then just a couple of laps later, he took the lead from Kenseth. John Nemechek looked fast and was desperate for his first career Winston Cup win. With 25 to go, Nemechek still had the lead, but Jimmy Johnson began to reel him in. Just 3 laps later, Nemechek, Johnson, and other leaders went down pit road for green flag pit stops. However, Johnson had a faster stop and barely got ahead of Nemechek coming off pit road. With 21 to go, the caution came out when Casey Elliott made contact with Rusty Wallace coming off pit road, and Casey Elliott spun up the track. Tim Futua had to evade and got into Terry Labonte as they both got loose and hit the wall. 3 drivers were on pit road when the caution came out, and because of that, Alan Kowicki had the lead with Davey Allison second and Al Unser Jr. in the 33 in third. Johnson was fourth and Bill Elliott was fifth as we restarted with 15 laps to go. Johnson quickly got to the inside of Unser for third, and he was wasting no time. He tried to go for second and about
that was a pretty cool
contact with
burnout from Jeff
Allison
Gordon
and had to
earlier.
lay back. Johnson was able to get around Allison not too long after, as Kyle Petty was working his way through. With 9 laps to go, Jimmy Johnson went to the inside of Kowicki, and the rookie would take the lead in the Brickyard 400. However, Kyle Petty was in hot pursuit. Then with 7 laps to go, Kyle Petty went to the inside and would take the lead from Johnson. Petty wanted to pull away, and he finally wanted this season of hell to be over. Johnson tried to reel him back in with 3 to go. Dale
This was
Senior
what
there
this
as well,
was like the
but
turning
they
point
used up
for
everything
Kyle
they
Petty.
had,
Was this?
including their
This
fuel.
was the true turning point.
Johnson
at
and
least.
Earnhardt had to pit coming to 2 to go, heading second to John Nemechek. 1 week after blowing his motor from the lead, Kyle Petty, on fumes, would win the Brickyard 400 for the second time in a row. All the headaches he's had this season, and he was able to make something out of it by becoming the first 2-time winner of the Brickyard.
Yep, he was
Matt
the first.
Kenseth led a big pack
first
of
2-time winner
cars
of the
with 9
Brickyard.
laps to go at Michigan, but would then lose the lead to John Andretti, looking to give Jared Farr
Indy's put
the
on
first
some
win as a Cup
Loki
team.
put on some bangers. on
Tony
SNL.
Stewart would then take the lead, going 3 wide. The leaders then had to pit late with 5 to go, and Blaze Alexander then had the lead with Dale Jr. right behind him in second. Then they both pitted the next time around, but things got thrown out of a loop when Patty Moise spun Ricky Rudd coming off pit road.
That's incredible.
To end the race
Yes.
under caution.
Incredible. That's
This happened right as Alexander and Dale Jr. pit, and because Alexander crossed the line after the caution came out, Blaze Alexander had the lead, and he would go on to win at Michigan.
insanity in Michigan.
The 2002 Southern 500 had quite a lot of big moments and could be indicative of where our title fight is heading. Jeff Green started on the pole, but all 3 Earnhardts started in the top 5 behind him. Dale Earnhardt was the one to pull around to second, while RCR led early. It was Casey Elliott who had more pace, making his way to the lead. But shortly
What
before
other Brickyard did
halfway,
KP win?
we had a big
2001.
wreck that could
He won
bring
back-to-back,
big
essentially.
implications. Kyle Petty made a bit of contact with his son Adam, and that squeezed Moroso behind into the wall and spinning
And here we
right
go, they all
in front
drive
of the
into each
pack.
other.
A dozen cars pile in, and some continue, but the most notably ones are Jeff Gordon, Patty Moise, Sterling Marlin, and Rob Moroso. With 3 of our top 6 in points out of the way, Green and Wallace had a chance to increase their lead. But it was Blaze Alexander, who was 6 in points, taking the lead after pit stops. Alexander would have the best car for the rest of the race and led the way, with Rusty Wallace having a chance at him, as well as the elder Elliott, Bill Elliott, who had jumped to second after final pit stops. Bill Elliott had a pair of chances at least in traffic, but never got to make a move. And Blaze Alexander goes on to win the Southern 500. Alexander has suddenly come to life and has now won 3 of the last 6 races. Does the sophomore have a chance to run for the title?
I guess you could say
especially
he's
with some of
blazing
this
his path
competition
to the
wrecking
top
out
of
early?
the standings.
It's the Looney Tunes
Probably all
rematch.
week.
We had one of the special paint schemes up front, with Dale Earnhardt
Kurt's
starting
getting
on
the
the
worst of it
pole in the
already.
Tasmanian Devil car and led in the early section until being passed by Rusty Wallace on the long run. Where things got wonky, however, was after we had a caution for Tim Steele and Tim Futua, where we had a rare case of splitting fuel and tire strategy. Ricky Rudd took the lead and had great pace, while tile favorites Jeff Green and Rusty Wallace were cutting back through the field. After another caution for Bubba Nissen, among others, as the final battle was between two drivers who stayed out at the first yellow, Ricky Rudd and Rob Moroso, with Moroso getting the upper hand and pulling well ahead with lap traffic in the end. Rudd ran out of fuel with 2 laps to go, handing the second to Jeff Green. But the bright blue Haviland Special paint scheme shines under the lights
run in real life.
as Rob Moroso takes Bugs Bunny to victory lane, his fourth win of the year.
And it's funny because Jeff Gordon's Bugs Bunny diecast was like the first diecast I ever got.
This race featured the Looney Tunes rematch, featuring cars such as Rob Moroso with Bugs
Doing the
Bunny,
special paint
Dale
scheme thing
Earnhardt
is
with
fun.
Taz
Yes,
the
this is
Tasmanian
foreshadowing.
Devil,
Yes, it
Davey
is.
Allison once again with Marvin the Martian, Kelly Earnhardt with Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, Jimmy Johnson with Speedy Gonzalez.
Oh yeah, I gotta
Tony
see that
Stewart
Acme
with
versus
Sylvester
Coyote
and
movie.
Tweety, Kenny Brack back again with Daffy Duck, Joe Nemechek with Yosemite Sam, and John Nemechek with Pepe Le Pew. These cars will be available for download in the description after the premiere. Here we are at the final 10 races of the season. And in this one, our title contenders took a bit of a back seat. With Bill Elliott starting on the pole in this one, it was a series of veterans leading early as a crew of Bill Elliott, Dale Earnhardt, and Sterling Marlin paced the field. Dale Earnhardt found his way to the lead before long with a youngster, Casey Elliott, climbing up the leaderboard and finding his way to second. After pit stops, Dale Earnhardt retained the lead, but a new challenger arrived on the short pit, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Father and son were running 1-2 once again this season, both looking for their first win of the year. Dale Jr. had a longer run car and ran down his father, making a pass for the lead. But Dale Sr. would take it back narrowly on pit road. As the race ran on, Dale Sr. stayed in front, with Dale Jr. losing long run pace. Dale Sr. maintained his lead in lap traffic, but would make a daring move to pit long late in the race, which led to something remarkable. As Dale Sr. went down pit road, we had a caution as Ken Schrader got spun by Paige Jones, and thanks to the timing of that caution, Dale Earnhardt had essentially lapped the field. Earnhardt was at the tail end of the line, but led the race, and all Dale Earnhardt had to do was to play it safe in the final 12 laps to finish, and he would win. Dale Earnhardt did not take it easy and worked his way up the pack to formally put cars a lap down. Dale Earnhardt has what may be one last show as the 51-year-old wins at Dover for his first win in a year and a half. And this is a moment I'm sure Dale Earnhardt is always going to cherish, because with every win, you never know when it'll be your last. On to our second ever trip to Kansas Speedway, and we had an unusual qualifying session.
I slid
Andretti
that
gets
in
the
there.
pole, Kenny
I
Brack starting
recorded that
in second,
line after
while Andretti led the first 2 laps.
after Kyle Busch
the race
passed,
was dominated
so
by the Fords.
I definitely
Blaze
wanted to kind
Alexander
of
taking
reference
the
to
lead
that.
for a time
Which,
until he was caught
how
by
more
Paige Jones.
eerie is it that
All
this
the
happened
Penske
at
cars
Dover?
had long run speed, with Rusty Wallace and Matt Kenseth climbing through the field. Matt Kenseth pulled ahead with the lead before pit stops and jumped out to a massive lead after them, cruising easily to his 4th win of the season as Rusty Wallace finished second, but Jimmy Johnson passed his friend Blaze Alexander for 3rd in the final laps to break up the Penske 1-2-3.
If we don't get
Rusty
a
Wallace
Blaze
just
Jimmy
sits
Championship fight
55
someday, I'll be
points from the
disappointed
lead
in our.
heading into
I
Talladega.
hope we do. That'd be a lot of fun.
Matt Kenseth is looking to enter the title fight as he started from the pole for some primetime racing at Lowe's Motor Speedway. However, as they came back around to complete the first lap, Shauna Robinson got into Tommy Kendall and into Jerry Nadeau, where Nadeau spun and Robinson got some damage. And that was only the beginning of what would be one hot night. While Kenseth led at the restart, Jimmy Johnson would take the lead shortly after. But that would only last for a handful of laps, as Rusty Wallace would take the lead on lap 12.
It was one of those fades I never
By
catch.
lap 40, and after the first round of pit stops, it was a 3-car battle between Wallace, Jeff Gordon, and Jimmy Johnson.
Sorry, John
Wallace
Lee.
took the lead for a
Any
bit.
big updates regarding
Then
SNL?
Johnson took the lead by lap 44.
We have races
Johnson
underway
would
now
lead
for
until the next
2003,
round of
so
green
we're
flag
making a
pit
lot of
stops
progress.
around lap 65.
So, we're getting the
Caution would
races
come
rolling.
out when Rodney Orr turned Mark Martin, causing Martin to spin and get tapped by Kenny Brack. Then Shauna Robinson got into Jeff Gordon as Gordon goes into the wall and he would get drilled by Terry Labonte. Johnson held the lead at the restart and would put both Green and Wallace a lap down. After the halfway point, Ricky Rudd would take the lead from Johnson, looking for his first win with Evernham. By lap 97, Bill Elliott had chased down Ricky Rudd, but then Jeff Green turned Robbie Gordon to bring out the caution. Then the 77 would get drilled by Kyle Petty, and then Kyle got drilled by his own son, Adam, sending Kyle Petty flipping. Quite the pileup would take place that collected Rusty Wallace.
This is why I want to test out that. I think it's the better cautions mod.
In the final 40 laps,
it
was the battle of Evernham teammates. Two former champions in Ricky Rudd and Bill Elliott, two drivers looking to snap losing streaks. Late pit stops took place around 11 laps to go, and Bill Elliott jumped ahead of Rudd on pit road. Ricky Rudd did all he could to chase down Awesome Bill, but he wasn't able to get to him. And for the first time since the Bristol night race in 1996, Bill Elliott would return to victory lane at Lowe's Motor Speedway under the lights. While Wallace and Green had a rough going, Blaze Alexander would finish in 6th. Bubba Nissen scored the pole at one of his home tracks, as he's had a quiet year compared to 2001. We had an early caution when Tony Stewart and Chad Little made contact, collecting Dale Sr. and John Nemechek on the front stretch. After that, it was Rusty Wallace leading the way for quite a while. On lap 29, Jeff Gordon turned Robbie Gordon coming off turn 4 to bring out a caution. While Rusty Wallace led, Kelly Williams was having a strong day, running in second for a good portion of the race, but then close to 50 to go, Jeff Green, who had ran inside the top 5 for most of the race, had a couple of run-ins that led to him getting extensive repairs, finishing the race multiple laps down. Suddenly, Patty Moise found herself in the lead and had to hold off a charging Rusty Wallace. She hadn't won all year despite running very well, but that all finally changed as Patty Moise earns a long-awaited first win of 2002, and Rusty Wallace would then take the points lead, having a 20-point lead over Jeff Green. Our final road course points race of the season gave us a clean race that blended heavyweights with underdogs. Patty Moise continued her momentum from last week with rookie Adam Petty in second. Petty nearly took the lead on the start in the S's, but had to back off, falling behind Rob Moroso.
Yeah, that is true. We are very close to seeing the likes of Brad Keselowski, and Clint Boyer, Danny Hamlin, and those guys.
John Nemechek, who had a great qualifying run and held fourth on the start
most popular
before
driver
getting
award.
around Adam
Yeah, again,
Petty
that's something
over time.
I never really brushed up on.
Moise led for the first half in this one, but Moroso finally got a move on her and took Nemechek with him, sending Patty Moise to third before the 20 car pulled ahead. Rob Moroso is looking to be a serious contender as he ties his teammate with 5 wins on the year to close the gap to the leaders. Jeff Green closed his points gap on Rusty Wallace, but couldn't pass him, with Green finishing 10th and Rusty in 15th, giving Moroso a very valuable boost. As for Green, he only now sits 4 points back of Wallace with 3 races to go. We head back down to South Beach as Matt Kenseth scored the pole, with Jeff Green starting in second, but Kenseth looked fast early while Green dropped back to 8th place. Kenseth would lead past the first green flag pit stops, but by lap 38, he would lose the lead to Rusty Wallace, who was trying to get all the points that he could. Wallace looked strong, but by lap 62, and after another round of green flag pit stops, Jeff Gordon took over the lead, and with 11 to go, Tony Stewart chased down Jeff Gordon, and he took the lead. However, the leaders still needed to pit. Jeff Green was on track to take the lead, but the caution came out when Patty Moise and Joe Nemechek got together and wrecked into turn 3. 4 drivers in the back were the lead pack, as Bill Elliott led, with Alexander, Kyle Petty, and Sterling Marlin to the restart with 2 to go, and on the final lap, Kyle Petty worked his way past Elliott, who was swamped by lap cars, and Kyle Petty picks up the win at Homestead. Heading into Atlanta, Jeff Green holds a 32-point lead over Rusty Wallace. Will Jeff Green go back-to-back, or will Rusty win number 6? Here we go once again. The 2002 Napa 500.
I still like that I run the
race
season
to
finale
determine a
at
champion.
Atlanta at night.
For Rob Moroso, he would start second alongside pole sitter Tony Stewart.
I thought of that, and I thought
While
this
he
would be
is
really cool to
mathematically
do. And
eligible,
plus, like,
a lot would need to fall in
now
his
it truly
lap
feels
to
like
finally
Sunday
earn his
Night
title.
Lights, you know?
Behind them are other title contenders. Rusty Wallace trying to chase his 6th Winston Cup championship, and Jeff Green looking to become the first driver since Wallace to go back-to-back. Early on in this race, Rusty Wallace took the lead early by lap 3, scoring himself 5 bonus points. By lap 17, Rob Moroso had found his way to second and wanted the lead from Wallace, but he wasn't able to complete the pass. While Green was dropping back a bit,
These are some real
Wallace
Sunday
was
Night
looking
Lights.
strong
Yes,
early,
they are.
trying to earn as many points as he could to win the
Plus,
championship.
the season
By lap
finale
30,
at Atlanta at
Rusty
night just
Wallace
gives
would
off
head
a
down
certain
pit
kind of
road to
aura.
begin
It gives
the
off
first
like a
round of
certain
green
kind of
flag pit
vibe.
stops, as he would be the first one to make the move. Just 7 laps later, we had trouble as Bubba Nissen got into Mark Martin in turns 1 and 2, and Martin went up the track.
Yeah, not the
and
first time
hit
it's
the
happened to
wall.
Mark this season.
It didn't stop there, as Casey Elliott, Jerry Nadeau, John Nemechek, Tommy Kendall, and Terry Labonte were involved. Kendall ended up slamming into the 94, giving Elliott a bit of airtime. Some of the leaders went down pit road to top off, including Rusty Wallace, and on lap 43, he restarted in 13th, and Jeff Green restarted 26th. Blaze Alexander led the field back to the green flag with John Andretti in second, and John Nemechek did not get going at all, and he
strong
was
in the first half of the race.
And with that,
But then
Jeff Green would get stuck behind him.
You know, even though Jeff Green got stuck
to
here,
do
Rusty
now,
just
as
started
he
to
was
drop
still
back, and it's
back
like
in
he
26th.
just lost speed.
Meanwhile, Blaze Alexander was leading the way with Rob Moroso up to second. Rusty Wallace was in 10th, and just a couple cars back of him was Tammy Jo Kirk in 12th, who was having a solid run for Gene Haas's team. By lap 55, things began to change for the number 2 as Rusty Wallace began losing spots and suddenly didn't look as fast as he did earlier. His car began plowing and began losing even more spots. It was becoming apparent that he needed an adjustment or his title hopes were going to be finished. By lap 77, everyone had to pit again, and John Andretti was in contention for the win. But he loses what will be the lead to Rob Moroso. Andretti struggled despite showing flashes of good runs that never got the result he wanted. He hopes to build off that for a better 2003. While that was going on, Jeff Green was cruising in 8th, while Rusty Wallace was all the way back in 27th. With 30 laps to go, Blaze Alexander got into an intense side-by-side battle with Rob Moroso, and Alexander, who's had an amazing sophomore season, would take the lead. Perhaps a year from now, we'll be talking about him winning the title. Alexander essentially took the lead, and he would never look back. Blaze Alexander
what a
wins
year
at
Blaze
Atlanta
had,
for his
too.
4th win of 2002.
The young guys at Penske really
and his
broke
5th
out this
of his
season.
career. Jeff Green crosses the line in
Kenseth
9th.
and Alexander.
Rusty Wallace finished 19th. And with that, Jeff Green captures the NASCAR Winston Cup Series championship for 2002. Jeff Green, now a 2-time champion, becomes the first back-to-back champ since Rusty Wallace did it in 1994 and 1995. We still had one more race to go as our international exhibition takes NASCAR to España for the first time with a 23-car field, including 3 European guests. Our field consists of the top 15 in Winston Cup points, plus our lone race winner outside of it, Ernie Irvan. Our top 3 drivers in the Busch Series will each make an appearance. Casey Kane will drive the number 99 for Bill Davis, Greg Biffle will drive the number 29 for Richard Childress, and Kevin Harvick will drive the Evernham Motorsports 19 for Dodge in place of Ricky Rudd. Scott Pruitt will also run another race in the Sapco 44. As for our guests, we begin with a familiar Frenchman. Veteran road racer Yannick Dalmas returns to Penske Racing
back
for another guest appearance,
2002.
driving the 03
But,
Mobil 1
again,
car. In addition,
the young guns are starting to rise up.
Racing at home. Barcelona native Pedro de la Rosa will drive Ganassi's 85 car now that the F1 season is over. And lastly is a star in rally racing for Ford, Carlos Sainz Sr. He will be driving AK Racing's 7 car making the trip alongside Ernie Irvan. A very diverse field is on hand as the Winston Cup crosses another continent off its list. And for the first time ever, the NASCAR Winston Cup Series is racing in Europe, as Rob Moroso and breakout star Matt Kenseth led the field to the green flag in front of an excited Spanish crowd. At the start, Rob Moroso was able to pull away as Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth, and Sterling Marlin went 3 wide for second. Marlin, however, was able to quickly clear the two to secure second early on. It turned into a pretty calm race as Rob Moroso was able to set things into cruise control with Sterling Marlin in second and Jeff Gordon third. Moroso ran the perfect race, having no problems as he would dominate the entire race and go on to take the checkered flag in Barcelona. Despite not winning the championship, Rob Moroso still had a fantastic season. As we take a look at our winners and our final standings from the 2002 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season. This was certainly the rise of the young guns with breakout seasons from Blaze Alexander, Matt Kenseth, and Jimmy Johnson. Kenseth and Johnson, who of course got their first career wins. As you see our standings, Jimmy Johnson finishing 9th in the standings, Casey Elliott having a career year, finishing 10th,
here this
while
video.
there were plenty of down seasons for the likes of Shauna Robinson, Kyle Petty, Alan Kowicki, and DEI in general. And those folks are going to look to rebound in 2003 for sure. Last season, we talked about Jeff Green as a late bloomer who broke out. And this year, he showed that he's here to stay. It started with a hot 3
it's
in a
interesting
row
with Jeff
starting
Green
in Las
because he's
Vegas
at this
before he
point,
cooled
I
off
think,
for a
like
bit.
40 years old.
Staying at the top of the standings.
So I
with
think he'll be
consistency,
competitive for another
he had to fight
5 to 6
resurgent
years
Rusty
for sure.
Wallace, late
So
pushes from
it's
Patty
definitely going to be
Belize,
intriguing
Rob
to see how he
Moroso,
does,
and this season's
especially with the
breakouts,
rise of the
Blaze
young guns,
Alexander and
how
Matt
he was
Kenseth.
able to
Green
pick up a
returned to
couple of
victory lane at
championships here
Bristol, a race where champions rise.
here in the early
the
2000s,
fourth
of
consecutive
course.
year, the race has been won by the defending champion. A career-best 5th win at Gateway put him in championship position, a duel he claimed over Rusty Wallace, ironically to become the first back-to-back champion
What teams
since
need to
Rusty
rebound the
himself
most
in
in 2003?
1994 and 1995. At the
Probably
end of the
Dale Earnhardt
season,
Incorporated.
he spoke highly of his teammates
AK
and
Racing, too,
competitors
for
alike.
sure.
He said, quote, "Rusty is the gold standard in this generation of racers. There's no one more challenging to beat, and I thrive on being pushed to reach those heights. It's a spirit that Dale Earnhardt gave me, and even as he steps away from our team to focus on his own, we're always cheering for each other. He gave me my opportunity to even compete at this level. Dale taught me, and I'm ready to keep teaching those at RCR and beyond. I want to go for 3 in a row, but my teammates and the whole industry are ready to chase more championships. May the best one win." 2002 saw both the shining of the sport's current stars and the raising of its next generation. Jason Jarrett showed the Jarrett family name still has something in the tank, while Casey Kane's shocking championship season took him from little known to a top prospect for Bill Davis in the same way Jeff Gordon did a decade ago. But what will their futures look like as the Davis team continues to fall short of their targets? At the Winston Cup level, Jimmy Johnson earned a thrilling rookie win and quietly put up an
have a good night,
all-time
Trigger.
rookie season, while Blaze Alexander, Matt Kenseth, and Casey Elliott took steps forward to show they can lead NASCAR's new era. At the same time, some of the sport's best still hold the crown. Our past 2 Winston Cup champions, Jeff Green and Rusty Wallace, dueled for the championship. In the end, it was Jeff Green taking home a second championship as Richard Childress Racing looks to assert itself as the best team in the sport. Green was a driver found by Dale Earnhardt, the original driver for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated in the Busch Series, well before they expanded to the Winston Cup. Even
I would
after a
say for sure
disappointing
the 4 pillars
2002
right now in
season,
SNL.
Earnhardt looks to be
Probably
a team
RCR,
owner to watch for the future.
Sapco,
and
Penske,
perhaps
and
his own starts there will
maybe
breathe
Bill
new life
Davis
into it.
for now.
51
right now.
years old, 3 championships, and 57 wins, the majority of which came for Richard Childress Racing, a team that grew alongside Dale to include Neil Bonnet, Rob Moroso, Jeff Green, and now young Jimmy Johnson. After one last shining moment in the number 3, Dale Earnhardt bows out of his full-time career, and what a legacy he left. The chapter he got to end on his own terms with the honor he earned. Yet at the same time, he enters a new chapter, one we could have seen in real life if not for 2001, a timeline where Dale's leadership takes on new meaning in an era of ownership, a timeline where he continues racing in NASCAR and beyond, representing American oval racing to new audiences as the icon he was meant to be. Yet he continues to build the future of the sport from the ground up, both within the family and with drivers other owners would overlook. An ambassador for every aspect that fuels the sport, a star motorsports athlete, an emerging team owner, a man indicative of the effort and attitude that got the sport to this point, and a true ambassador for how to take it to new generations, new audiences, and make NASCAR more than what it used to be. Dale Earnhardt is a cultural icon of Southern grit, a representation of the sport's roots at a time where it grew from an emerging Southern series to a national spectacle. His story was carved in an ordinary town called Kannapolis, yet he became known across the country and around the globe. There's a bit of Earnhardt in all of us, our call to be bold, authentic, competitive, and rise from humble beginnings to a life with purpose. Dale did it all. He was a family man in North Carolina, a celebrity representing NASCAR in the big city, an advocate for drivers from the South, North, and West alike, and even a man who saw potential in a foreign road racer to excel in the Winston Cup. Dale Earnhardt represents not just the sport's past, but also its present and future, even when he didn't get to see it. NASCAR's greatest villain is more than a hero. Dale Earnhardt is its greatest legend, because heroes get remembered, but legends never die. From 2001 to today, Dale's spirit is alive, even as the sport and the world changes, just like every driver who's contributed to our sport's history. Even when his life was cut short while he had more to give, Dale's presence propelled NASCAR to something bigger. That is the true reason that for a quarter of a century, Dale Earnhardt has inspired us to rewrite racing history. But we say it again, the story is never truly over.
I mean, you know, we've not had a good year. And, you know, we're in the top 5 in points, and that's good. That's a competitive place to be, but we want to win some races. And we still got 4 races to go, and we can win some races, and that might make the season look a little better, to end up on a winning note is what we like.
69th victory in this series, your 5th right here. Why do these moments never get old, Kyle?
Because you never know when the last one is, you know.
Since the last episode of Sunday Night Lights, NASCAR has been through a lot. Many would say its darkest period since 2001, but the sport has moved forward, no matter how hard it may be, because the joy of racing at its best is something everyone we've lost would want to see continue. Just like we saw in the 2000s, good times are always on their way, and those good times are shaped by everyone who's played a role in NASCAR, big and small. That's what Sunday Night Lights has become over the past 6 years, and will embrace even more going forward. A celebration of racing at its best, and a way to show that even as the story changes, there's always something to be loved. Racing is worth celebrating and sharing, and we need people, now more than ever, who want to celebrate NASCAR, both for what it was, what it is, and what it can be. Evolution is inevitable, so we need to celebrate it. People like Dale did, after all. Our mission continues as a team, and we thank you for your patience waiting
That's
for
kind
this
of why
video
I
and your
stayed quiet in
enthusiasm
that
for the
part.
series.
Um,
Thank you to Jets
that
Racing Designs for all
goes
his
back
work
to a lot of the
creating
stuff
cars,
that,
plus the blender components
a
and
lot
some
of the stuff
real
that I
footage used in this video.
I've
Thank
talked
you to
about.
Rose Jam for their work on paint schemes and with updating team ratings, and
You know,
Ferris for his work
when-
updating our driver rating algorithm.
when Kyle Busch passed
We'll be
away,
posting all the new paint schemes
we
for download
knew
soon,
more than ever
Primary
before
paint schemes
that we really
to the
had to
Looney
hit it
Tunes and
home
Muppets
at the end of this
collections.
video. And
As always, we can't wait to see what you do with them. And much as we've said about the drivers in our sport, our story isn't over. Please like the video and subscribe to see more.
that's why we had to hit it
2023 should
home,
not be
and
as
that's
long
why
as
I
this
talk
one.
about
We're building
the
a story
stuff that
shows why we love racing and
that
its
I
people,
talked about,
and why we want
because,
everyone to do the same.
Yeah, as Jet
Both
pointed out,
through fiction
the footage
and
of the
real
Earnhardt
story
Memorial
of
Plaza was
those
filmed in April,
pushing
and that was
racing
always planned.
forward. Last
But
season,
some of the
our
parts
core
were
theme
rewritten
was
after
heroes,
Kyle
and
Busch's
how any
passing.
driver can be a hero. But some rise to become legends who never die.
But
The
we knew
drivers
how
who
important
achieve
it was
more
more
in
than
the
ever
sport than
when that
anyone
happened.
else. Those who will be more than remembered, but beloved.
Because
Even NASCAR's greatest villains are part of that category. So the question remains: who will become legendary in the timeline
Legends
of Sunday Night Lights?
never die.
The only way to find out
They never do.
is to move forward. And let's do it as a family.
25 years later, we're still celebrating Dale. And 25 years from now, we're going to celebrate him and Kyle. You know? So, you know, I'm not going to lie, that ending part is probably one of the greatest things I've ever made. Just that little segment right there, you know. I got emotional when I first watched through it in full. As I'm getting emotional now, I apologize. But it just shows how much I love this sport and how much I love NASCAR. And that's why I do this and I talk about the stuff that I talk about. Because I fucking love this sport so much. You know? I think about 7-year-old me who fell in love with this sport. Who, you know, watched guys like Biffle and Kyle Busch and guys like them racing every week. Dating back to Chicagoland in 2004. And, you know, I think back to all that, and I want to make that kid me proud of, like, how far I've gotten and, you know, how far things have come. And obviously there's the teaser for Jimmy. There's Dale's successor right there. And there's a reason why we put Jimmy in the 3. And we talked about that before, but and I had the little thunder sound effect because well, you know, kind of pay homage to Thunder 03 and 04. So, you know, that seemed rather fitting. So that's all she wrote. Yeah. So sorry for getting a little emotional there, but that might honestly is probably one of the best things I've ever made, was that little sequence alone. And I'm just, you know, I always try to make my videos better than the last and make every season better than the last. So, you know, the fact that I've gotten a following and I've gotten you guys to watch these videos and support just means the world. You know, I didn't know what, when I started this 6 years ago, I didn't know where this was going to go. And now here I am in 2026 and, you know, it's come a long way and I'm just forever thankful. Now do the whole commentary again at 2x speed. How long would that take? Like an hour and a half, 2 hours? So, but yeah, I mean, obviously that ending got rewritten a bit because of what had happened, but, yeah, Jet filmed the stuff at the Earnhardt Memorial Plaza, because that was always part of the plan, because initially with the ending, we wanted to make sure that we really, you know, sent it home. We really showcased how much Dale meant to so many people and to this industry and to motorsports. I mean, he was to a point where he was like a pop culture icon to an extent. He was that big of a guy. And yes, I agree that NASCAR is suffering from not having someone like him and even Kyle Busch today. That's why I talk about Hocevar a lot. I'm not comparing him to Dale or Kyle, but again, he's one of those guys where, he's close to it. And I'd like to say that in this timeline, with Dale still around and all these guys, that there are multiple superstars and that people can get behind. And these guys are icons. And, just to celebrate all these drivers and to really hit home that, legends never die, because they don't. There'll always be ways to celebrate these people. And when we lost, as Kyle Petty once again said in part 2 of the NASCAR Americana documentary, he said it wasn't just a Southeastern tragedy. It was a national tragedy when we lost Dale. And same thing losing Kyle. Now, it was a national tragedy. So, I'm just, I'm really happy about how that ending got put together, because we really had to hit our marks with that. And I think it turned out really good. So, and you guys clearly loved it. So, I am sad at myself for not really being involved in this live stream, but I appreciate that I was able to be here regardless. No, it's all good. It's all good. Seriously, I'm a smaller channel, obviously, I don't have the kind of influence or the kind of equipment that some other folks have, but I still want to get the message out. And I still, because there's other people who may feel that same way, and I want to be that platform, but also that platform that can help celebrate racing and really showcase NASCAR for what it is, instead of people who try to tear it down. So, because again, I've watched this sport for so many years, and I've seen this sport change. So many things happen over the years, I'm talking I'm 22 years now that I've been watching this sport. So, dating back to when I was like 7. So, in elementary school, and kids asking me, like, what are you watching NASCAR for? It's because I love it, I like watching cars go fast. I love the thrill of it, the emotion that it brings. And, in times of triumph, there are always better days ahead. And you noticed how I kind of put Daniel Suarez's win at the 600 this year and Steve Park's Rockingham win right after, because I feel like there's a lot of similarities there. Because, Daniel was teammates with Kyle. He worked alongside Kyle. And the fact that the team that Kyle believed in and sold his shop to won that first race back, I really think Kyle had something to do with that, because I think Kyle was like, Joe, you're going to win so many more races with your team, but Spire needs this moment. That's kind of what it felt like. And, I mean, seriously, I was over at my friend Michael's, and I had to leave because I had a early bird shift, and I was literally going to stop at a gas station and grab something to drink before I went home, because I had a 4 a.m. shift, and I'm literally screaming for joy when they called the race, and because I was just so happy for Daniel, because I've always liked Daniel. So after that, I parked my car, went in, and grabbed a Coke to celebrate Daniel's win. That's what I did. So it's hard to believe it's been 3 months, and it still doesn't feel real. It's going to be surreal being at Gateway, because, I'm sure there'll be plenty of tributes, because obviously that was Kyle's last Cup win. Me and my dad were in the stands for that, and I'm honored that I got to see his last Cup win. But, yeah, so I'm just really proud about how the ending of that was put together, and I'm really excited for 2003. Like I said, Suarez's win was special for a lot of reasons. It was also the first win for the number 7 in 30 years. Oh, God, that's a good point, isn't it? That number hasn't won since Kawecki, hasn't it? Wow. You wouldn't think, right? Like, wow. Damn. And funny enough, I think Spire used to be in the old AK shop too. Because I think there was a picture of Corey LaJoy with the 7 car standing out in front of that building like Alan Kowicki did many years prior. So it's like, God works in mysterious ways. He just does. God works in mysterious ways. I was there too at WWT Raceway. If that's a memory, will feel different for me as well. Yeah, I mean, with Jeff Bodine. Oh, damn it, that's right. Jeff Bodine wanted that number. I'm sorry. That's right, because he bought Kowicki's team afterward. And yeah, he won some races in that number. Thank you for the correction. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, you know, I saw Kyle win the inaugural Cup race. I saw Kyle Busch win the inaugural Cup race at Kentucky in 2011. And then 2015, he wins again right after he comes back from his broken leg that began his championship run. I saw him win the 2017 Xfinity race at Kentucky. And then his 100th Xfinity win at Nashville. And then Gateway 2023. Bodine's last win in the 7 came at his home track at the Glen. That's right. Yeah, thanks for the correction there. That totally passed over me. When Chase won in the Hooters car a couple years ago, I think that was the first win for Hooters since Kowicki. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, so 2003 is gonna be great for SNL. We got races underway now, so yeah. So we're making really good progress and really excited to show you guys when that time comes. Obviously, I don't have a definitive date just yet, but we'll continue to work on things, and as we get closer to when I can give you guys a definitive date and when that video comes out, I'll let you know. It'll be a bit, but I will definitely let you guys know. So, and I think we want to try and get out at least one more Racing Infinity before the next Sunday Night Lights video. So, 2003 is going to be a big year for sure, because we want to make every season bigger than the last, of course, and all that stuff. So, oh yeah, there it is. Truck Series at the Madhouse, August 20th, 2027. How about that? That'll be fun. That'll be interesting. SNL 2003 will come out before 2004. Yes, there's your spoiler right there. What's the quote from Paul Heyman? That is not a fact. That is a spoiler. But anyway, yeah, mind blown, right? But what time is it? 9:51. Okay, I'll go till 10 o'clock. So I got 9 minutes. Let's see. But obviously we've got the Cup race tomorrow at New Hampshire. And then we go to Daytona, and then I will be at Gateway. So, and obviously I'll stream again at some point soon, and I'll let you guys know when I do, whether it's mock races or something along the lines of that, and go from there. So, as always, I just I appreciate all the support, and it's honestly amazing. Again, I could put these videos out. I edit them in like 2.5 weeks. A video that's longer than a lot of feature-length films. Which now I'm wondering, how long is this video going to be? Because I'm trying to cap maximum 3 hours. Not any longer than that. But then I'm worried one of these days I'm going to be like 3.5 hours, like 4 hours. Like, oh my god. So, like, this video's getting too long. I try to cover enough, obviously, for kind of the big timeline that that has been created here, but yeah. Let me see. Alex Gray's The Odyssey. The Odyssey. Oh man. Yeah, we got the IndyCar race at Washington, D.C. as well tomorrow. We got the Cup race in New Hampshire. Let's see what else there is. But yeah, how about what do you guys think about the truck series going to Bowman Gray? That'll be interesting. Like I said, I think that'll be something that they set up similar to Eldora, where they do the heats and all that, because I have a hard time believing they're going to fit like 32 to 36 trucks on that little circuit, but I don't know. Anything's possible. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. Curious to see if there'll be any like interesting one-offs and stuff like that. You know, Connor Zilic had a good run today, so we will be going to Funky Town tonight. Hopefully, we will not be back to Torture City tomorrow. Of course, Zilic going to the 48 in 2028. So, kind of sort of like when Casey Kane signed with Hendrick for 2012 in late 2010. Except Casey Kane went to go drive for Red Bull in 2011. And then Clint Boyer was going to replace Stewart after 16. That was announced in 15. And then Clint Boyer drove for H. Scott that one year in 2016. That was kind of unfortunately, a lame duck year for Boyer. And then, got about a few more wins out of there for retiring in 2020. What else? Yeah, so. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how 2003 goes. I know I sound like a broken record, but this is definitely a year that I dreamed of getting to on SNL and amongst other things. So I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a great season. It's hard to believe that we've gotten so far when you think back to like doing the International All-Star in 96 and then 98 and then getting to 2000 and now here we are in 2003. But yeah. So if you guys have any other final questions, comments, concerns before I head off for the night, just let me know. I got about, what time is it? 56. About 4 more minutes or so. I think the weather's gonna get really nice around here, so that'll be nice. We've been hit with a lot of crappy weather lately. Heat waves followed by storms. Had a couple weeks ago, had a tornado warning when I got home from work. And it was just like straight line winds. It was straight line winds, some rain, and then it stopped. It was just like, wow, okay. So, hey, Benjamin, how's it going? But, yeah, again, I always appreciate everybody's support. Thank you all for tuning in as always. Means a lot. I love chatting with y'all. I really do. Is there one track that you would like to run in SNL that already isn't in there yet? That's a good question. I would love to do a street circuit race for Cup. I know I kind of talked about the street races early in the stream, but for sure I would love to do a street race. I don't know where, That's kind of been the tough one, is where would we do it? Is this something we would create in the sandbox, or is there another circuit we can do? But I don't know. A New York street race would be kind of cool. But it's just kind of figuring out, the right time to do a street circuit race. So definitely that. But yeah, appreciate the question though. It's a really good question. So looks like I think you have a second question, so I'll wait for that. Let's see what else. What else is there? Am I missing anything? I think I've covered everything. Yeah, I think I've covered everything. But got a haircut today. I need to get some new shoes. Is it possible to get the 2.66 mile Talladega back in SNL? I mean, the reason why we did what we did with Talladega is, for NASCAR to push on safety sooner than in real life. And, kind of to change things that way, which is what, led to Talladega doing that and leading to the summer Daytona race going to the road course. Is for NASCAR to push on safety more than they did in real life, to where it protects the drivers. When recording for SNL, have you ever had to do redo a race because AI did something ridiculous? Oh, certainly.
We've had moments like that.
Sometimes there's a crazy wreck and we're like, crazy, and then a bunch of weird things happen. We're like, okay, let's redo. I've had moments like that. So fan favorites 3 on the cards for Racing Infinity. Yeah, I think there's a possibility of that. Something to look into. Perhaps we could do something like that again at some point. They were fun to do, so I think we could probably do that again at some point. I don't know when, but it's a possibility. All right. Well, we've hit the 3-hour mark. 3 for Dale. 10 o'clock. Again, thank you guys so much, as always, for stopping by on these streams, spending your Saturday night with me. I appreciate it so much. So, yeah, thank you all so much. And, there'll be more updates for the next Racing Infinity. There'll be more updates regarding 2003. We got races going now, so we're making good progress there and all that fun stuff. So, again, thank you guys so much, as always. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the races tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your night and all that fun stuff. I know Labor Day is coming up as well, and I'll probably stream again here in the coming weeks and let you guys know what's going on. So with that, I'm going to head on off for the night. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. Have a good night, everybody.